Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Transatlantic Collins Show, your favorite place to be on a Thursday afternoon. I'm obviously Dr. Ben, and with me is the lovely Josie. How have you been doing?
I have been going a mile a minute. As you know, I'm in the middle of a race. We are less than 3 weeks away. Our election is not this Tuesday, not the next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that, on June 23rd. As everybody knows, I've been running a very hard fought campaign. And little birdies are telling me that there is some polling that's out there that's saying they're polling us at fourth place out of a four-person race. So we're in the top four, which is exciting. So right now, every dollar, every door, every voter we talk to is going to be the voter that is going to win the day. People are saying that the difference between fourth and fifth place are going to be about a dozen votes. So it could really come down to a canvassing shift that shifts this election. So not taking anything for granted. We're moving fast.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my gosh.
absolutely incredible. I'm so excited for you. And I noticed we have a message in the side chat from Arden, who is currently in her hospital bed, saying Happy Pride. And yes, it is the start
Aw.
of Pride Month, and that's super exciting. Lots of things going on right now. And in case you all don't know, this is a live call-in show, and you can call in at the number at the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, to talk to us about any of your trans-related questions or arguments. We're going to prioritize people who disagree with us on certain topics. So if you are against Pride Month, if you think we shouldn't have a Pride Month, if you think that trans people shouldn't be in the military, or if you think that trans kids shouldn't get gender affirming care, give us a call, and we will take those on the show. I know we got some people getting into the queue. We'll let those get screened up. In the meantime, would you like to have a look at last week's poll?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So last week we asked you, have you or anyone you know been a victim of a violent anti-trans hate crime? Yes, no, or I don't know any trans people. Um, so Josie, were you on this last week to discuss this one?
I was. I don't know why there's no results.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh,
sure
right,
either.
because
It's
Arden's
me.
in a
It's my
yeah,
fault. I'm so
Arden
sorry.
yeah, Arden is in a hospital bed, and we got a new voice of God, but it's fine. We'll blame Arden because Arden can't be here to really defend herself, even though she's here in the chat. Love you, miss you. I'm so happy you're in there. I will say that statistically, it makes me want to pull out the U.S. Trans Survey about the fact that we know that about a third, if not more, of trans people experience some form of violence, and either verbal harassment, physical violence, sexual assault. And or physical, it's absolutely horrifying. And it's only getting worse. There was recently one of our friends of the show, trans advocate, was also just violently attacked. That's where this poll comes from. And you also have the fact that we saw, I think just recently, another trans person was stabbed. And it's a really horrifying thing as we see the rise of transphobia, not only at a systemic level with laws, but also people taking matters into their own hands and causing pain. So it's very scary. It's very scary stuff.
Yeah, and this is one of those topics where it really makes me angry when people say, well, what rights are trans people being denied? And they often say that kind of facetiously. But this is one of them, the ability to go out in public and just exist as themselves without being assaulted. Like that is a right that we should have, and people should not be afraid to go exist in their communities. And it is absolutely very scary. And I deeply empathize with people that I see in the side chat who have experienced anything like this. And I hope that things can get less scary out there for us, but I know it's really rough right now.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So moral story, stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't walk down any dark alleys. And just be safe. That's how it goes. If you're going on dates, go in public spaces on your first date for sure. And just be smart, be vigilant. Because it's a scary world out there. And we want everyone to be safe.
Yep, definitely. And on that note, let's go and show this week's poll before we get into some callers. So this week, we are asking, and this may seem like a repeat, but I promise there's a reason why we're asking this one. But will SCOTUS finally strike down the military trans ban? And your options are yes or no. So get your votes in, and we will talk about that later on. A couple other quick announcements just before we get into callers. You can send your super chats, and especially if you send them of $5 or more, and you leave a hashtag Team Ben or hashtag Team Josie, you can vote for one of us, and the loser, so whoever gets the fewest amount of votes, at the end of the show will have to defend a silly position that you will vote on later. So be sure to get your super chats in. We will read those at the end. And any other announcements before we get into one of these?
No, I think that's it. I think we can go ahead and get moving.
All right. Either one of these stand out to you, or alternatively, we could wait a couple seconds and see if this one in the screening room gets through.
Let's wait a couple seconds so
All
I
right.
can shamelessly plug my campaign. So just to let everybody know, I am running for county council at large. We are on the cusp of victory, and the Zerba link or the line viewership has donated about $8,000 so far. So we're trying to get that number up to $10,000. If you do that, we'll make sure we have the rest of the literature that we need to get out for GOTV. And so it is incredibly important that we get it done. We have nearly raised on this campaign a total of about $175,000. So we are still in the top 5 fundraisers out of 17 candidates. So let's make this happen. And I'll be putting a link in the chat.
Yes, yes. And I will not be offended if instead of giving a super chat here, you donate to Josie's campaign. Although you should give to both
Yes.
if you want to support all of the activism happening here. But definitely send some donations Josie's way. It's a very critical time right now for the elections, and we need some more representation. So
Yeah.
please consider donating over there if you are able to.
Yeah, and
All
just a
right.
real quick share on that, just really fast, is there's a lot of like transparent kids, sorry, parents of trans kids that I meet on the street all the time or on the doors because they move to places like Maryland because they want to keep their kids safe, but yet they still don't have representation. So the fact is, I'm meeting so many people and they are, so excited about representation. I was at a Pride event yesterday, met so many trans people who are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were running. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to volunteer for you." And so the movement is real, and the fact that I would be the first trans elected person, openly a trans elected person in Maryland's history is a huge deal. I would also represent more people than any other trans person in the country as well. In fact, we just got Sarah McBride's endorsement as well just recently. So it's going to be incredibly exciting on election night. But I just want to make sure that the line is some of the reasons why we're able to do this. And I'm just so grateful to this community because a lot of people thought that we weren't going to be able to make it that far, but it was the juice of the line that actually got us through the first hurdle of raising our first big sum of cash that people are taking us seriously. So thank you. Thank you, all of you. Really, really, to the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, yeah, this is incredible, and I really hope we get to see Josie elected. That would be super, super amazing for her and for the entire community. So
Yeah.
hoping for the best. All right, we have a contentious caller in the queue. So
Yeah,
let's
let's
take
go.
Rob, he, him from the UK. It sounds like you want to talk about puberty blockers. Rob, you are live on the line with Dr. Ben and Josie. What would you like to talk about?
Hello, both. Thanks for taking my call. I've called in twice before and spoke to Forrest both times, but I was told to ring back and to this show and speak to the hosts here. So there's probably a few things we could talk about, but I suppose we could start off with, I don't think that children can consent to puberty blockers because the risks so massively outweigh any benefits, and I don't think there are any benefits, and the risks of infertility and sterility and complete destruction of sexual function is something that children can't understand, so they shouldn't be given at all.
Rob, I am a medical doctor, and I know a good bit about this issue. And so some of the things that
Sure.
you're saying are factually untrue about the mechanism of puberty blockade. So puberty blockers is kind of a misnomer because we don't actually block puberty forever. It is a pausing of the natural puberty process that people will undergo. And so fertility risk, there aren't really any, there isn't significant evidence that there is a detriment to fertility down the road. There isn't really a lot of evidence that any of these complications are happening because of puberty blockers. So a lot of the things that you're saying are related to cross-sex hormone therapy and not caused by puberty blockers. So
Can
the
I
reason
respond?
why we use puberty blockers is to allow time for kids to figure out if they want to undergo their endogenous puberty or if they're going to end up starting cross-sex hormone therapy. And so it's meant to slow that time down, allow them to get into therapy, allow them to socially transition, allow them to figure out who they are before undergoing something that is permanent and does carry more risk. Does that make sense?
Sure. That does make sense. I just want to respond to that. Well, firstly, nearly all of them do go on to cross-sex hormones. It's something like about 98% or something like that. And the president of WPATH, Marcy Bowers, on his call said when kids were given puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in TANA stage 2, he said that destroys all their sexual function. So there is that.
That is not true. It does not. It does
Marcy's
not destroy
mistaken.
their sectional.
And
It does
Marcy
not
never
destroy
said
their
it that.
sexual function.
You didn't say
Yeah,
that either.
that's not something that was said.
Anorgasmic. You can look it up. He said it renders them
That's
anorgasmic.
not sexual function. That has nothing to do with it. And the thing is, you're misquoting Marcy Bowers. You are misquoting Marcy Bowers. Like, even though I take
Google that and then see.
yeah, go ahead and go on your magic Google to let us know. But I'm getting informed by in the chat that a lot of things that Dr. Ben just shared with you was shared with you already with by Forrest about the reversibility of it, the making sure that the puberty blockers only exist because of precocious puberty in the first place. Was that all explained to you before?
No, it wasn't. But Forrest didn't explain that. But what I did find is and I have read, and I've got the information here at the 2022 Duke Symposium. Marcy Bauer said every single child or adolescent who is truly blocked at TANA stage 2 has never experienced orgasm. I mean, it's really about zero. So, and also you're talking about puberty blockers. I mean,
but also,
yes,
Rob, we're talking about
Rob.
Hold on real quick. It's kind of cringy that you're worried about the orgasm of TANA stage 2 children, which are usually between ages of 9 and 13. So that's a little bit weird to focus on that particular piece. But I do want to circle back. I do want to circle back a little bit. Rob, I want to circle back a little bit to the point that you said that 98% of children that undergo puberty blockade end up on cross-sex hormone therapy. So there's an argument that's used to suggest that it's because kids are being funneled into that. But let's think about this for a second. If we have good diagnostic criteria and we appropriately diagnose people, of course, they're going to like we're going to capture the ones that need the cross-sex hormone therapy. So we do a really good job with the period of psychotherapy and social transition that people get earlier on, to where the ones that we're offering the puberty blockers to are the ones that are higher risk individuals, or the ones more likely to undergo cross-sex hormone therapy anyway. So I just wanted to point out that piece of this argument.
Okay, well, no, I've looked
Does
at
that
some
make
other
sense,
studies.
Rob? Does that make sense with the idea of the, do you know what gender dysphoria diagnosis entails then, correct?
Yes, I understand the diagnosis.
Okay,
but
so
also,
what,
the fact is that,
does that make sense that you would need gender dysphoria to get puberty blockers? So therefore the people who have gender dysphoria that get puberty blockers ultimately go on to cross-sex hormones and be happy trans adults?
Well,
that's why the 98 number
A
percent.
lot of them don't, because the actual, you can't tell the difference between the children with gender dysphoria who are just going to grow up to be gay.
You just said that 98%. You just said 98%. Exactly. So apparently we are very good at telling who's trans and who's not.
No, it's not. It's not. It's because you're locking them into the pathway. And actually,
locking them into what, Rob?
The
do you think that, Rob, do you think that we force people?
Because, sorry, let me just explain. If you let them finish, because the best cure for gender dysphoria is actually puberty. And if you allow them to have their natural puberty,
that's not true. So
Rob, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Look, Rob, listen to my lived experience. So I was born and raised in conservative Texas. I was raised Orthodox Catholic, and then moved into different religious, like Christian sects after that. I then joined the Navy. I was an amateur bodybuilder there, so I could protect myself. I actually put on, like, I weighed 170 pounds at 5'9". I knew jiu-jitsu. I was quintessentially what you would see as a masculine man. After serving in the Navy, I then served and had an entire career for all the way up until age 34. And if you were right, Rob, why am I sitting in front of you on the web right now as a happy trans woman at 40 years old when I transition at 34? How am I an anomaly? Am I an anomaly? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is not everybody. Not every trans person is the same. So there are multiple causes. Amongst the younger group, especially amongst the girls, quite likely they're autistic and have a history of sexual abuse.
Rob,
and
trans women?
So think about
trans girls?
Rob, think about
children.
Rob, hold on.
Basically the girls.
Hold on. Rob, think about this for a second, just with your argument. So you're simultaneously saying that you are opposed to puberty blockers because minors can't consent, and that not all of them are going to be trans, but then you're saying that like there are other reasons why people may have these feelings and not all of them are trans. So the reason why we use puberty blockers is because not all of them are trans, right? So we use that to buy time to allow us to evaluate the child and figure out, is it appropriate to continue their transition, or is there something else that we need to address first? Or is this child not trans and just kind of exploring their identity? That's the whole purpose for using puberty blockers. Do you not understand that?
Yeah, I understand that's the theory behind it, but since most of them do go on to cross-sex hormones, and a lot of them are, when you come out of them, when you speak to detransitioners, desisters, a lot of them give up when they realize that they would just.
Rob, there's only a small fraction of people who are detransitioners. But I want you to think about this for a second. Do you think, Rob, do you think that doctors are forcing adolescents to get cross-sex hormone therapy? Or do you think we actually have a conversation about this and undergo a diagnostic process and a discussion with the patient and their parents? And like, it seems like you have a misunderstanding of what actually happens in the medical system. So I know you gave the position that minors can't consent, and you're technically correct. And especially, I know you're in the UK, but in the US, minors can't consent except for certain things, depending on your state. like in adolescence, you can consent to STI testing or pregnancy testing on your own without a parent. But in the US, for puberty blockers or for hormone therapy before the age of 18, you do need to get parental consent. So the people involved in this conversation are the minor themselves, the parents of the minor, and a multidisciplinary healthcare team. So we're talking a therapist, we're talking their primary pediatrician, we're talking an endocrinologist, because as for kids, they're not going to, like, their primary is probably not going to be the one giving them hormone therapy. So it's a team-based discussion. And at any point, if the child says, no, this isn't for me, that's considered in the conversation. Like, no one is holding down children, forcing them to transition. That's not at all how this happens.
But if they're not given proper advice, so say the medical team are following, say, WPATH guidelines, and they didn't understand how WPATH was formed, and they haven't looked up Mia Hughes.
WPATH isn't the only set of guidelines, Rob. Those are not the only set of guidelines. More often now, they're following the Endocrine Society guidelines as far as puberty blockers in HRT goes, especially for minors. There's a whole pediatric endocrine society that has pretty solid guidelines on this. So regardless of what you think about WPATH, there are multiple sets of guidelines here. And if you are going to come in here and debate with a doctor about what appropriate medical practice is, I would think that you would go and read those guidelines and inform yourself on what is actually happening, instead of listening to rhetoric that is false and misquoting people. I apologize, Josie, I've been talking a bit. Do you want to?
Sure. I mean, I have looked at them. I know a lot of them did use WPATH to base them, but there's been lots more recent data. So particularly with the Finnish studies have shown that this, like, pediatric gender medicine does not help psychiatrically, and the best thing for a lot of them that I think we can all agree on is just counselling. So once you do that,
I
especially
disagree.
The ones who are more likely to have a sexual assault history. Because there's a woman, she looked at the clinics in the UK, and she found that the children who were referred possibly for gender dysphoria, they were 10 times more likely to have a parent that was a sex offender than other children. So that suggests that there's probably something going on in those households that needs to be looked into. So that's one thing. And
so there's a good bit of Gish Gallop here. So
you've got these courses.
Where are you getting this where are you getting some of this information from? And why do you think all of that is? It sounds like you're making a bunch of statements all over the place instead of kind of zeroing in on what's happening.
If you want me at any time, I'll give my sources. So what I was looking at is Hannah Barnes's book, Time to Think, which was an expose of the Tavistock, which is one of the pediatric gender clinics in the UK. And that's what she found when she looked at the parents of these children. So, you know, I don't know whether these kids were subjected to extreme pornography or something like that, which has messed up their heads.
All right, Rob. Okay. I wanna take a step back here, because you are in a specific, like, bubble of research, and you are someone who is incredibly convinced that you are right, and are not someone who is, like, wanting to talk about the merits of the lived experiences of the thousands of trans people across the world that have received gender affirming care. The life satisfaction of those folks are in the 98th percentile of more satisfied with life, and including with surgical care, including with all of these things. And you are taking a slice of the community, and you are trying to expand that out to be the entire lived experience of the trans community. And it's incredibly aggravating, that you're like talking about one surgeon here, or you're talking about all this different person's lived experience. You brought up detransitioners. All of this also still proves the 1% and the that are unhappy with the care, or the 1% or the doctors who say this is not the thing that we need to do. Don't you see why that would be incredibly aggravating, and how it's hard to argue with someone like yourself that continues to throw fact after fact at us that is biased in the worldview that you think that transitioning is a bad thing?
Okay, well, for a few things. Firstly, this 1% detransitioners is completely false because it's based on very dodgy statistics.
Not false. It's not false. Why are you saying it's false? How are you prove to me that it's false? Rob, you know that I actually study trans people for like a living, right? I actually ran a survey surveying 92,000 trans people in every state and every territory in the United States, studying this exact phenomenon that you are talking about, and specifically asked the question about life satisfaction. Can you explain to me why out of 92,000 respondents that only less than 2% said that they were less satisfied with their transition?
Because it was like a lot of these are like self-selecting surveys. So for example,
no, it's a survey of trans people.
Yeah,
it's a survey of trans people. Yes,
surveys,
Rob. If I'm doing a scientific study, wait. If I'm doing a scientific study, and I am doing a study on a population that is identified, wouldn't it make sense that it would be a self-selected study of trans people for a trans survey? What is that argument that you're making with me right now? Of course it's self-selected, because you're trans to take the survey.
Yeah, but you don't take in the high loss to follow-up. So some of the Amsterdam study had a 36% loss to follow-up. So that massively underestimates the regret rate. And if you go into the detrans
you're citing a completely different study. Hold on, Rob, you can't bring up the loss to follow-up issue about a survey that Josie ran. You're talking about a completely different survey. Focus on the one that we're talking about, and don't try to just bring in outside information to this particular
survey to find it. So I think that from the one that you're mentioning, the US transgender survey, 8% have reported detransitioning. So so that's far above the 1%.
This survey, this one, the US Trans survey from 2022, 8% detransition. You're gonna challenge me on that, huh?
I got the 2015, and a lot of I'm just saying a lot of them. The HSS review of 2024 said the 1% was unsupported by the evidence, flawed definitions, limited follow-up. So a lot of these outside other studies just suggest that the detransition rate is way above 1%. So that's just dodgy statistics.
Well, Rob, you're also not taking into account the people who were included in those studies who were gender divergent in other ways, or just not conforming to traditional gender roles. A lot of those people were also included and labeled as trans. And of course, those people didn't end up transitioning because they weren't trans. So the definition of how we included people in the studies over time has changed, and we've gotten a lot more specific with our criteria. So do you know, when I say the word specificity or specific with regards to a scientific paper, do you understand what that term means?
Yes, I understand what sensitivity and specificity are.
Okay.
Good. So let's rely on that knowledge.
So Rob, do you realize that most studies, at least what Dr. Ben is talking about, even in the 2015 study, they counted detransitioner as somebody who could not receive their hormones because they had to stop them for some medical reasons, or the fact that they couldn't afford it anymore, or the fact that they were pushed back into the closet because they lived in a society that pushed them away from transitioning altogether. Do you know that those are also counted in that 8%? And the 1% that I'm talking about are the people who actually transitioned, thought it was a bad thing for them, and then transitioned back to cis. Because a lot of detransitioners in those studies that you're talking about are still trans. They just do not either A, socially detransition because the world around them did not accept them, or B, they didn't have the money or medical care to be able to stay on their medical transition, or C, which is the smallest one, where they regretted their transition altogether and then detransitioned back to a cis person. Because a lot of detransitioners, even the ones that you're thinking about, don't even consider them as themselves cis, because they still feel that they have the trans identity inside of them. So we have to be clear about what that 1% actually means. And that 1% is people who went through the transitional process and said, this isn't for me, I'm actually cis and I'm going back to that gender.
Well, it's not, because I mean, if you look at some interviews they did with Billboard Chris, he interviewed a lot of them, and a lot of them say on the statistics they still come up as transitioned because they didn't go back to their clinics to say that they were detransitioned, whereas a detransitioner can just choose to stop taking hormones. And the money argument that you're bringing up isn't really appropriate for Europe, where a lot of it's free healthcare anyway. So that's a completely
well.
different.
So in Europe, did you realize, Rob, that in Europe you should know that they've actually been denying healthcare for a lot of individuals, so it's not even their choice. So if the health clinic is kicking them out, of course they're not returning. Does that make sense too? That also sullies the data that you're talking about the fact that there are so many people that are getting pushed out of trans healthcare, and now you're counting them as detransitioners. Sure does suit your argument, doesn't it?
Sure. Well, the argument is that they're.
You're just going to move on from that point. You're just going to move on from that point.
Yeah, okay, no, I understand that point, but the point is that in Europe, you don't get to choose your healthcare. If the evidence suggests that the guidelines need to change, and the guidelines change, and then the health boards are
therefore all the trans people that get changed out of the guidelines and pushed out of the medical care are counted as detransitioners. So you get that nice little handy 8% for yourself, huh?
It's not. That's not, because they. I mean, for a start, they can still go to private clinics.
Oh, can they now? I thought you said that money wasn't an issue in Europe, but now you're saying it is. Now you can go to private healthcare. Which is it, Rob? Can you get pushed out of the social healthcare and then have to go to private, and then money be an option? I thought you said money wasn't a problem.
Well, it's not the issue here in the UK. So
you just said it was. If you're pushed out of healthcare, you just said if you're pushed out of healthcare, they have to go to private, and private sounds more expensive than social healthcare, doesn't it?
And it absolutely is an issue in the UK. The UK has been dialing back on healthcare access for trans people as well. So don't pretend that the UK is immune to this. They've been doing the same thing that other places in Europe have been doing too.
I know. I actually know. Go ahead. Sorry.
A lot of Europe has been doing this, but that's because the guidelines have been changing as the evidence gets better, which shows that it's not an effective intervention, and that you should probably just give psychological therapy.
The evidence says the opposite.
Yeah, the evidence says
the clear opposite.
Rob, you're talking about politicians making these choices. You're not talking about scientific, medical informed data. Like when you even bring up somebody like Cass, the fact is we have already debunked all of that information. And in fact, they know that she was hand selected to say what she said. So therefore, politicians can use a scientific medical evidence to basically end transitional healthcare. And it's caused massive distress in the UK. In fact, the UK has the nickname Turf Island because your country in particular has been incredibly abusive to trans people and trying to use false data and false evidence to try to prove your point, and then use that false evidence and then use the results of that false evidence to then prove your point even more about detransition. This is a complete farce. It's a complete farce.
And it's backed up by similar evidence in Finland, Sweden. You had your HSS report as well. So a lot of the world
and those have been debunked.
And Rob, who commissioned our most recent HHS report? Who did that?
Well, your government.
And who's our government right now at this time?
Well, it's Trump. And,
exactly. And RFK. And RFK, right? Robert F. Kennedy?
Yeah. But it was
okay, and what was his position? When was his position before he got into that role?
I don't know much about the guy.
Well, the guy was completely against transitional healthcare for all people, including adults. So the fact is that I will not trust the HHS of the RFK and Trump, who have specifically spoken out against the existence of trans people. In fact, Donald Trump recently signed an order that literally said that if you are a radical transphobic, radical trans ideology, we will find you and we will kill you. And he signed that letter. So I don't believe the government of Donald Trump as much as I believe the government of the UK that has been using a concerted effort to erase trans people from history and trying to erase trans people's ability to healthcare.
There's no, it's not healthcare because you need psychological therapy. That's the evidence. That's what.
So you don't think psychological care is healthcare? You don't think psychological care is healthcare? And you're saying therapy. So what is resolved with what is involved in a gender dysphoria diagnosis then?
It's when there's an incongruence between your biological sex
and that is a psychological diagnosis, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's healthcare, correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So how do you alleviate gender dysphoria?
Well, if you look at the
how do you alleviate gender dysphoria? Just answer the question.
Three causes. There are three causes. A lot of the kids who think they're
you're not. No, I didn't ask for the causes. I didn't ask for the causes. I asked for how do you. You're not. I don't need you to explain it. You realize that you're talking to two experts on trans healthcare. You do not need to explain what the causes of gender dysphoria are. So just tell me what is the best way. What is the best way to alleviate gender dysphoria? That's all I'm asking.
Well,
I don't need a causes. I don't need any of that. What is it?
Identify
Sorry,
the cause,
I missed it.
and it's often autism, history of sexual abuse.
What? No, wrong.
Rob. And Rob, let me say something. Do you believe that autism and being trans or any other condition are mutually exclusive? Do you think that you can only have one identity at a time?
No. I'm saying there's a high correlation.
So you can be autistic and also be trans, and those are separate things.
I said there's a high correlation between them. So
guess what? Correlation does not equal causation. So you're already just stepping into some really problematic territory with that. So
no, a lot of them, nearly a high proportion of them have autism, which explains
that
why.
Does not mean that there's a cause, Rob.
That is misinformation. And here we go. I'm just going to say this to you, Rob. You still have not answered the question, what is the best way to alleviate gender dysphoria? I don't care about causes. I don't care about any of that. Just tell me what is the medical consensus of how to treat gender dysphoria?
As I said, you have to treat the cause, and whatever that cause is.
You're not talking about the cause. Oh my God,
so Rob! If it's autism, is one thing you can address that.
If you already have
abuse, then you can do that.
Why do you think
and then you've got the internalized homophobia? You've got the elder man with autogynephilia.
Rob, I'm going to mute you. I'm muting you.
Mute him.
Rob, do you think you are a better diagnostician than the entire medical community? Do you think you are better than a doctor, than a psychologist, a psychiatrist? Do you think you can diagnose and treat better than I can? You're unmuted.
Well, I've got the same guidelines that the doctors can follow. So
no, you do not. No, you do not have the same guidelines because you didn't even know that the Endocrine Society had guidelines. You didn't even know that there are updated guidelines. And guess what else, Rob? I have a license to do these things. I have done these things. I have prescribed these things. And I have been trained in how to do that. So I think you should calm down about trying to claim what causes are related to this and all of that. We asked you a simple question of what is the management? What do we do about this? When someone is diagnosed with gender dysphoria, what is the next step? What is your answer?
And I've answered it about 5 times already.
No, you haven't. You haven't. You haven't. Rob,
I have. You just over me. I said address the causes. Because the reason why this social contagion has been increased
There
so
is no
massively.
cause. That's the problem, Rob. That's the
No,
premise.
there
That's
is
the
a cause.
problem with your premise. No, there is no cause of gender dysphoria, just like there's no cause to being gay. All right? Like
No, those are
it is a
completely different
thing
things.
that exists. It is a thing
It's
that
not.
exists in the human. And it's not something that is triggered. It's not something that is caused. It is something that is born within us. Because Rob,
It's not.
what was the reason I have gender dysphoria? Give me a good reason. Tell me, why do I have gender
I
dysphoria?
don't. Well,
What is my cause? Was I
I've
abused?
not.
Is it because I'm
I've not
autistic? Is it
psychoanalyzed you.
well, that's what you want to do to every single trans person, because apparently you're asking every medical provider that provides this diagnosis to completely change how you treat gender dysphoria. Because let me answer the question for you, since you won't answer it. The way you treat gender dysphoria is gender affirming healthcare. Period. That's what the answer is. It's not about causes. It's not about anything else. It's about gender affirming healthcare. It's basic, it's doctor prescribed, and informed by everybody involved. It's a multidisciplinary system that involves multiple doctors of different classes to be able to make this diagnosis, to treat the diagnosis of gender dysphoria. There is no other answer to it.
It is not. Once you understand the causes of why the numbers have increased, there is.
You're not listening anymore.
No,
I
I'm
think
listening, but I don't
it's time to
agree with
move
you because
on.
I've read all the
No,
information
Rob,
here.
Rob, you are so overly confident. If you are such a better doctor than I am, or anyone with an actual license, get the fuck to medical school, and you know what? You'd probably learn how wrong you are. But this is so dishonest, so incredibly dishonest, Rob.
Funny
I
enough,
think
a
we're
lot of
gonna move
doctors in
on.
the UK say the same as I do.
I do not care.
It's just like it's talking to a fucking wall. It's like talking to a chat GPT that's incredibly transphobic and has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Like
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like I don't know his stance for sure, but he sounds like the kind of guy that would claim that Andrew Wakefield was right. Like, oh well, there are doctors who are anti-vax, therefore, like that's the same rhetoric that people will use to justify a whole bunch of terrible medical ideas.
And the thing is like there's no way you can communicate with someone like that, because it's just like they think that gender dysphoria is caused by an external factor. It's like the idea of it just existing in somebody as they are, growing up and developing as a human being in this world is like an idea that is unbelievable. I can't believe it. There's something wrong with you if you have gender dysphoria. And in his mind, it's either you were abused, you're autistic, or you have something psychological underpinningly wrong with you that would make you a trans person. Because that's how he thinks. He is so old school, like transphobic, that that is what it looks like when somebody says being trans is a mental illness. That is exactly who that person is. When somebody says, "Oh, being trans is a mental illness," we just talked to the person who's the king of that thought, because he doesn't believe that our existence is real. He believes it's triggered by trauma. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, and with that too, just like the fact that he's trying to use autism as something to uh like eradicate as well, like that you have to find the cause and get rid of it, like that is some eugenics nonsense, and medicine doesn't support any of that either. Like, so what
Ben,
if you found the
if you had a
cause of
heart
autism?
attack,
What are you going to do about it?
Ben, if you have a heart attack, all we got to do is address the cause, and then you're fine. There's no extra treatment you got to do. It's just you just got to find the cause of it, and you're good. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
forget if you get lung cancer, like all we have to know is the cause. Oh, we know it's cigarettes. Oh, we find the cause. Cancer cured. Fine. Like it even if you take his argument at face value, it still makes no fucking sense, because it's the idea is when you're diagnosed with it, you have a treatment regardless of how you get from A to B. And I know Zoom's been weird.
I might need to
Turn off your
refresh.
camera. Yeah, turn off your
Okay.
camera and turn it back on. That's what I had to do, and that fixed it. There it goes.
There we
Yeah,
go.
that's
Okay.
what I had to do earlier.
Waking me up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like it's just I wasn't expecting that to go so spicy, but like chat was saying that he had a conversation with Forrest and it was explained all this stuff, and it's like I don't even know where to begin with someone like that. Right? It's like, you know, for
Yeah.
me, it's like I usually have a pretty good starting point with people. It's like, tell me the difference between sex and gender, you know, but that person's so lost in the sauce that they're like entombed in a bunch of bad data and they will never hear outside of that tomb. And you know, and they'll be buried with it. They will die in that tomb. And they will always forever think the way they are is correct and will continue the fight to take away healthcare from people they don't even know. I'm just like bad people, bad people.
Yeah. Do we want to do one more call and then the poll, or do you want to do the
Let's do the
poll and
poll
then?
and then we'll do the
All
call.
right. All right. Let's get into the poll for this week. So we asked you, will SCOTUS finally strike down the military trans ban? And you could respond yes or no. So this is, strangely enough, back in the media after this week. So I don't know if you all have been following. There are a couple court cases out there still. About the trans ban, which I was removed from the military over, and many people have been removed, and there are more people still that have yet to be removed. But essentially, the DC Circuit Court had ruled that it was unconstitutional to institute this trans ban, and so they have essentially put that on pause, but only, I have to specify this, only for the plaintiffs of the particular case that this was ruled on. So this doesn't apply to, this doesn't mean that anybody that's gotten out is getting back in. It doesn't mean that anyone that's in gets to stay in for the long term. It just means that the plaintiffs, for the moment, aren't getting booted. But we all know that SCOTUS has been doing some sticky things behind the scenes, and maybe people aren't aware that there's a shadow docket, and they rule on things all the time without a lot of big publicity. So at least my thought is that that's what's going to happen here. That this is quickly going to go back up to the Supreme Court, and they are going to vote and say that nope, this is totally fine, and then go back to where we were on that. Do you have any thoughts,
Well,
Josie?
well, I mean, I hope they do. I think you're right. I think they're just gonna throw it back. They're not gonna be brave enough to go against it. You know, I think, you know, there's a couple political scenarios. If they do strike it down, that means that the Supreme Court's finally trying to separate itself from the Trump Republican MAGA movement, which could be something that's happening since right now a lot of the Republicans are trying to pull themselves away from Trump. But if they do just stay silent on it, then they're going to try to hedge their bets. And if they do say if they don't strike it down and or sorry, if they do strike it, if they don't strike it down and they keep it and then it happens, then it's just another nail in the coffin of what the elections in 2026 are going to look like for this blue wave of change. It's going to be something that we'll see, right? And unfortunately, trans people, and in this case, trans veterans and trans service members are just another bloody token for political expediency. Because if trans people get booted out, then we're going to have to use that bloody token to say, hey, look, Republicans don't care about human rights and use us again as another banner of why there needs to be change. But if they go ahead and say, yes, trans people can stay in, again, we're being politicized in another direction. It's just a really bad position for trans people to be in this current society where we're just throwing around like ping pong balls on one side to the other. And I'm tired of being the ball in this game. I'm ready to just be able to exist in peace without people like the last call that is trying to say that we don't exist because we are traumatized. I'm just so sick of it. I'm sick of being the political ball in this political game. But yeah, well, if you want the ball to be a player in this game, you can donate to my campaign.
Yes.
I'm being very shameless. I'm very close to winning.
Yes, let's help Josie get into that seat. It would be absolutely amazing. for that to happen. But yes, everybody get in your votes in the poll, and then next week we'll see what those results are.
All right.
All right.
Perfect.
We got a couple more contentious callers
All
in the
right.
queue.
I think it's you,
Are there
Ben.
any?
I think what it is,
Yeah.
because it's funny because when there's two if there's a non-binary person or a trans femme on here, the transphobes are afraid to call in, but the transphobes when they see you, they're like, "Oh, it's just a regular white dude. I'm gonna call in." Like that's what's happening right now. I swear to God.
Maybe, maybe. Do you
Let's
have a
test your
preference?
passability.
Do you have a preference on one of these?
Let's go with you know what? Let's just go with 6'5".
This one? All right. I figured you might pick that one. All right,
Yeah.
let's talk with Cody, him from Wisconsin. Cody, you are live on the line with Dr. Ben and Josie. What would you like to talk about?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, so I kind of, called in originally, kind of just wanting to talk about whether trans women are women and trans men are men. And then additionally, at the end, at the tail end of it, maybe I want to also have a question about bathrooms and whatnot, but mainly about whether trans men are men and vice versa.
All
Okay,
right.
great. Well, tell us why.
Okay. Um, so the way that I view it is that there's kind of two views that are on the table, essentially like a trans inclusive view and a trans exclusive view. Both views, have their virtues and vices. I think that I might have issues with sometimes like the definition that is given for a trans inclusive view. And then I also think that sometimes the trans inclusive views want to hold to like multiple senses of the word woman. So they might say something like, okay, well, if this definition can account for all the data, well, we'll just appeal to some other definition. And I think that at that point, maybe a more simple worldview that just posits one definition, like adult human female, might be superior. So that's kind of where I'm getting at.
So I want to jump in. Why do you think adult human female is superior?
Okay, sure. I'll give a couple motivations. Number one, a good sign is that dictionaries, commonly use this, and I know that tracks like the common usage. I know that dictionaries are not prescriptive; they're descriptive, but I do recognize that we kind of want to be talking about like what concept do people have in their mind when you're using a certain word, and I think that that's a good indication that this tracks common usage. Another point that I'd want to bring up is probably that there are, it's I guess at least feasible to think that this is a good view because there's trans inclusive philosophers that agree that a woman can refer to somebody who is female. I think like Mary
So
Nicola, Jennifer Saul, and
so so I just want to jump. I'm sorry. So let's
Mhm,
start with your first. So when you look at a
mhm,
definition in a dictionary, right? Is
mhm.
there only one definition in the dictionary for women?
I believe it depends on the dictionary. Sometimes dictionaries only have one, but
Which
sometimes I
which
think like
which
Cambridge has
definition?
multiple.
Well, which dictionary are you using?
I wouldn't use just one in particular. I'd look at all of them. I don't have a reason to
Okay,
discriminate.
so
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 I can accept that
so
some dictionaries include multiple.
so let's go with Merriam-Webster since you're using both. If you're using multiple, then I'm going to posit this one: a woman belonging to a particular
Okay.
category as birth, residence, membership, or occupation, usually used in combination.
Okay. Yeah. That is one of the
So why
definitions that
why
are provided
why
for a woman.
why can that not be a trans woman?
Okay. So that definition is stating a woman is somebody belonging. Well, okay. I guess number one, let me actually step back real quick. Um, I feel like adult human female, just holding to one sense of the word, can kind of like do all the work and can like kind of explain all the language that we do use. Um, so I think that that's one reason to
But
kind
that's
of
not always the
at
case,
least
though,
add a
right?
space.
That's not always the case,
I would
though,
like to
right? Because
hear,
a woman
sure, I'd like
can
to hear
be,
examples of when it doesn't.
yeah. So for example, adult human female is sometimes a woman. So I would even say most times a woman. But when it doesn't sometimes, just like a chair can be a four legs and a back most of the time, but sometimes it's a stool. Right. And so with three legs. And so the idea that you can't just define something so cleanly because the exceptions make your definition not good, right? You said
I
it's
don't know what
superior. I don't.
exceptions you're referring to.
So
What
like
exceptions are there to adult
so
human
like
female?
I was assigned male at birth and I identify as a woman, so therefore I'm a trans woman. So I belong to the category of woman. So therefore, I'm a trans woman. So therefore, I'm a type of woman.
Respectfully, with this specific example, I feel like this might be begging the question because I understand totally what you're getting at. You're saying that words sometimes need to be based off of maybe a cluster concept because like the extensional adequacy may be too narrow. And you gave a perfect example, like a chair with four legs. Well, we could have a chair with three legs, right? But in this case, obviously in my worldview, I'm just going to kind of say that you just wouldn't actually be somebody who's a woman. In the
Well,
same way
that's your
that, like, if I
opinion.
look at your trans inclusion, I know, but
That's your
So a
opinion.
presumably we're trying to get like
reductionist,
motive.
so a reductionist
Yeah,
definition you're saying is superior. So you don't care about excluding people who don't meet a very narrow set of criteria. So let me pose the question then of what criteria get to include you as a woman and what criteria would exclude you? Like, how do you include all the people who should be included and exclude people who should not be included? What are those criteria?
Okay, I think I understand your question. And by the way, can I just mention one point prior to something else you said before I answer your question? I when you're, I think that the point here is going to be to try to give like motivations for accepting a definition outside of the whether trans women are women or whether trans men are men. Because like if I said, oh, here's a perfect example of why your definition is really bad, the reason why is because it includes people like trans women as women, and they are obviously not women. Therefore, that's like a reason to discredit your definition. And so, okay, so now let me answer your question. You said, how do we get category like membership into being a woman? Well, I think that if they meet being an adult human female, do you want me to like specify each of those terms?
Yeah. So specify what criteria make you a female.
Okay. Well, I would say I'd be inclined to saying something like when we make an assessment of somebody's body, you know, like we have all of these determinants like sex chromosomes, we have things like your internal reproductive anatomy, you have your hormones, a bunch of these things. I think that typically there's like 5 categories that are listed. And I kind of want to say, you know, if you make an assessment of these 5 and you kind of see whichever side a body either leans more towards or possesses more traits that are typically associated with large gamete production, that would be what makes you a female.
So in that case, should we test because a lot of those, like if you're going to go with what somebody's body is most like, then if somebody's external features are only a small part of who they are, and like let's say their outside external features are female, but the majority of their internal features and chromosomes are male, do you think we should then test everybody at birth for their chromosomes, for their anatomy, for all their internal organs? Do you think we should be that invasive before we start calling people boys, girls, men, women? Or do you think that there's some layer of give there? How strict are we with these criteria?
So I wouldn't be very strict just because of the fact that typically, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I'm no expert, but typically what's on your outside is like kind of congruent with what's on your inside. It's pretty maybe rare well, I
But
rare in a
for
relative
those
sense.
people,
You know,
but for those people where it's not congruent, what do they get to be?
Mhm.
How do we determine what they are?
Well, you know, off the rip, like the doctors might assign them like female if the external, you know, like the phenotype is female. But I would say that maybe we're just mistaken about the assessment, and like that's not a huge. I don't know if that's a huge issue or not. Like if we ever need to really get down to it for some reason, I mean, then we could look down to it. But I don't have an issue with doctors just kind
So
of
would
looking
you
at what's on the
say,
outside and saying, okay, it's a girl.
but so would you say that there are some people who are women that don't have all of the characteristics that align to meet that definition?
There are some women that don't know, because I would just say that maybe okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you giving an example of where somebody has like, let's say they have a penis, for example, but the rest of their inside is like XX chromosomes?
Yep.
Because that's maybe like
Yep.
I don't know,
Exactly.
ovaries and
Yep.
various.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
Exactly.
I would say that this person is a woman. It's just that throughout society,
With the
maybe
penis.
they move as a man, or like you know, society thinks they're a man, or they're kind of like they meet the role of a man typically is. But I would say that they're actually a woman in my worldview.
So you're
So a
saying that
woman
it's
with a
more
penis.
complicated. So you're saying it's more complicated than just using this very reductionist definition. Maybe there is some nuance to this conversation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's nuance in everything, but I don't think that that's like necessarily a knockdown, you know, like argument against my position is all I'm saying. Like, I think that,
No,
yeah,
I
that
would
makes
say
it a
that
little bit
you are,
strange. Like,
I
you
would
have
say
a-
that it is. I would say that it is because it is allowing exceptions to your definition and allowing them to be included as women. So why do those exceptions get to be regarded as women, but trans women, who are another type of exception, don't?
Well, the issue is I don't think that that's technically an exception. Like, they're still meeting the criteria of being female, to my understanding, because you could have a
I
female with
thought
a
you
penis.
said, what if you have a penis? Yeah, so why isn't a trans woman a woman then if they're a woman with a penis?
Oh, because I would grant, I wouldn't say that a trans woman is a female, because I believe a trans
I
woman
never
is
said
somebody
it was
who's
a female.
actually
We've
a
never
male.
said female. You're the only one that's been using the word female. This is, I have been saying
so
woman.
okay, so why is a trans woman not? Okay, well, the way that I've been using trans woman is somebody who is male. Do you have another understanding of what a trans woman is? Or
It's a person who was assigned at male at birth that identifies as a woman. Yeah, that's pretty clear to my experience. Yes.
okay, well, and under your definition of trans woman, if you're just saying they were assigned male at birth, but that could have been mistaken, and maybe that, you know,
Yeah, it
they're
was
like,
mistaken.
I'm just gonna say,
People
Mhm.
thought that I was going to be raised a man, and they were mistaken. I'm actually a woman.
Okay, well, if I'm understanding you correctly, then if you're saying that by trans woman, all you mean is somebody who is assigned male, not necessarily that they are male under my definition, but you know
I
that
was
they were
male
just
at
merely.
birth. I'm literally saying I was male at birth. The reason I say assigned male at birth is because when I was born, they said I was male, but I identify as a woman, so therefore I am a trans woman.
And when you're saying that you were male, were you a male under the definition that I gave?
The
Cody, a
bio.
lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know what their full like hormone profile, gamete profile. Like most people don't know every single characteristic that they have, and we don't test for those things. So we go on a lot of different assumptions. So kind of what we're getting to with pointing these things out is that your goalposts for your definition change depending on who you're talking about, right? Because you were willing to allow a penis to be present for a woman if they met these other criteria. But then when we give a similar example for somebody who's a trans woman, they don't get to meet that. So your criteria for who gets to be labeled as female even aren't consistent across the board. So if those aren't set in stone criteria, then how do we narrow down who gets to be a woman and who doesn't? It sounds like this is a bit more complex of a definition than you're wanting to grant it.
Well, respectfully, I don't think that you gave me a similar case. Because remember, the case that I'm speaking about, I'm just saying that there was somebody who is female, whether we know it or not. I'm saying that that's what their body actually is, right? They're female under my definition,
Right. So do
but
you
they
think,
happen to
so
be
do you think
classified as male.
when we apply this, so Cody, like regardless of how far down the rabbit hole of philosophy you want to get, that doesn't really matter ultimately. It's what decisions are we making based on this definition now? So if we have this definition that we're going to use to allow people to enter spaces, or we're going to use that to ban people from spaces or ban them from certain activities because of that, we have to have a way to have a consistent definition and be able to verify it in a humane way without completely violating people's privacy. So let's say people don't know like whether or not they meet this biological definition of female, that everything is congruent with some of these people who are the exceptions. How do we handle this in society? Is there a point where we say, let's grant you the status of womanhood? Like, let's treat you as a woman. Let's allow you in women's spaces. Or do we have to then do invasive exams of everybody on this planet to make sure that we're not mistaken? Do we have to gamete sample everybody on this planet to make sure we're not mistaken? Or is there some room to say, I trust you, that you know who you are, and you're living in society under this role, under this identity, and we're going to treat you as such? Where's the utility line here?
Okay, so let me say two things. So number one, I think that no, obviously we shouldn't go around for sports bathrooms doing like MRI scans and gamete checks. I think that generally what people do is they just kind of do, social policing. They make an inference. They see things that count as evidence for somebody being a male, like whether that be an Adam's apple or whether that be, just a bunch of characteristics. Like humans are very good at sex recognition. So no, we don't need to do that. And then second,
biological females can have Adam's apples, right?
I know, but it's not as protruded usually. It's usually more hidden down, right?
But that's still evasive as hell, Cody. Like you're like, that's incredibly evasive to be able to go up to like any woman and be like, oh, you got a little stronger Adam's apple there. I don't think you need to be going into that bathroom. Don't you see that as incredibly evasive and embarrassing?
That's not really what I'm trying to get at. What I'm more so saying is that I feel like we subconsciously, our brain will kind of assess somebody and do like a very brief scan that takes less than 1 second, and we'll.
So Cody,
our brain
would
will
you
kind
say?
of,
Would you say that somebody like me or somebody like Dr. Ben and it would be men and women then, because people just don't perceive us as trans?
Would you guys be men and women? Well, okay, under my definition of man and woman, it doesn't really matter what other people perceive you as. Like it would rather.
Well, you just made it seem like it did with the bathroom. You just made it. You just shifted the goalpost again. Like you see why there's no utility in your definition, while our definition, and I'll get to that point here in a second, has more utility in regular society. Right, because once we start bringing your example into like practical terms of like living your day-to-day life, it falls apart pretty quickly.
Okay, I'm not going to say it falls apart because, like I said, for example, with the bathroom, we don't need the MRI scanners. I just think that people generally, I think I have studies for this too, we can recognize sex pretty accurately. So if there's a female coming in,
not necessarily. And I want to point out as well, Cody, I want to point out as well that a lot of those assumptions are very Eurocentric, especially in America. There are a lot of traits associated with femininity or ideal femininity are white European traits. And so people of color are more likely to be misgendered and face issues like harassment in the bathroom because of perceived masculine traits, which aren't necessarily masculine traits. They're just not Eurocentrically feminine. So I think we have to take a step back and understand that assumptions are problematic at the end of the day, and often impact cis people. So maybe that's not a good metric either.
I'd have two responses. I'd have two responses to that, actually, if that's okay. My first thing would be that I never mentioned that in bathrooms. I think that only females should be going into the woman's restroom. If I did hold that
You did,
strictly and I said we should
because
always
you
have a
said
way to
women.
confirm, I didn't.
Cody, I'm so sorry. You said that woman is adult human female, so absolutely you did.
Yes.
Because you
Okay,
just
well, that
said
wouldn't
that
mean that.
only females, because your definition includes sex. Because your definition of gender of a woman is just sex with extra steps.
Correct. But I never said that only women should enter the women's restroom. That I never. If I did say, like, listen, if I were to have said that, then you would be entirely correct. But I never
So
made
what's
the
the
claim
point of the
that
social
only
policing?
women
Then?
can go.
You literally said social policing, Adam's apples, and things like that, which is literally saying that only women should be going in there, and social policing is the way you stop non-women from going in.
Listen. I was just describing how people work, how people make these inferences. I was answering your epistemic question that you had about how do we know if somebody is a male or female when entering the bathroom. I actually never advocated, and sorry if it came off like I did or I accidentally implied that I did. I never advocated for only specific demographics entering certain bathrooms because I haven't looked at the statistics with regards to it, but I don't think that there's like a large epidemic of like trans people going in and assaulting people. So
why are you so up in arms?
Care.
So why are you so up in arms then about including trans women in the definition of women?
Yeah, because I'm looking at it more from a perspective from like, okay, what is like the most honest, best analysis of the term? And again, I've heard good definitions and good motivations for both sort of sides of this. And I just, I have certain, I don't want to say intuitions because that sounds very bad, but
because it makes you.
I just think
so interesting. It's interesting that you perceive the most honest definition to be the one that's had the most moved goalposts this entire conversation.
I don't think I honestly moved the goalposts, and I'm being very sincere when I say that.
Okay,
but
so Cody,
it's just that.
Okay, I want to take a big step back. Okay, because. The reason I wanted you to like explain your position about the utility of your definition versus the definitions that I'm about to go into, which is this. Do you believe that there is a difference between sex and gender?
Technically, yeah, of course.
Okay, so why does your definition of woman, which is a gender, use sex?
Well, because they can use it even though they're two different things. Like, I think that gender is a combination of sex plus species plus age. So it's technically not just the same as sex, right? If they were literally synonymous, I'd be able to look at a female goldfish and call her a woman.
Well, you're saying that gender, when you say it like that, you're just saying gender is sex with extra steps. Because your definition of woman...
Call it that way. Yeah.
Well, so therefore they're not separate.
No, that doesn't. If it's with extra steps, that inherently makes it at least somewhat different, right?
No,
like you can't say that something with extra steps.
It's completely different. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm saying sex and gender are completely different. Completely different. That's what I'm saying.
I don't even agree with that. But let me make one point before this. I don't think that like a bag of popcorn and a bag of popcorn that has been put through a microwave, they're two like essentially. You could call them essentially the same thing, but they're different in some way. With regards that one has been through a step that the other
so you don't, Cody. So you are saying that there is no difference between your sex and the way you interact with society. Like you are saying that those are the same thing. That you should interact with society based on your biological sex.
No, because there's obviously going to be clear counterexamples to that, right? You're going to have people who have, well, I don't know, what's a good example of that? Like
Swire
some sort of insensitivity syndrome.
I'm not even talking
syndrome.
about that. Yeah. Like Cody, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the difference between sex and gender. Right? That's what I'm talking about.
I think that
in your bag of popcorn example, like they are not always interlocked. Are they interlocked sometimes? Yes. But are they always? No. Just like your bag of popcorn. Well, there you go. So therefore, sex and gender aren't different. They're the same.
That doesn't
because one
logically follow. I
necessitates
don't
the
want to sit
other.
here and
One necessitates the other. That's what I'm trying to say.
sure.
So you're saying that you cannot have gender without sex.
Well, you might even agree with that. Wouldn't you say that your definition of gender is also going to hinge upon sex? Like,
No.
aren't you going to say that it's like the social
No.
and cult? What's your definition of? I don't know what your definition of gender is then.
Yeah, so my understanding of gender is like the social, like you said, the social, the cultural, the perceived, the schema of like how a person in the social construction is. So for example, back in the like, you know, during the 1700s, right? Like men wore powdered wigs, high heels, and the color pink was bold. And then the gender category of men then shifted to be more rugged and more like boot wearing, pant wearing, truck loving person, right? Like stereotypically. But the idea of the gender social role shifted. That wasn't because one had a penis and the other one didn't. It was based on the social construct of what those identities were. It has nothing to do with if somebody had a dick or not.
It's I am honestly struggling to understand. I don't want to say that it was circular, but I'm struggling to
So
understand
would
that
you
definition of
agree with
gender.
what I just said? Would you agree that the understanding of gender in the 16, 18, 1700s is different from the understanding and social construction of gender now?
Yeah, and the way that you're asking it, yes, it was. Like
Okay,
there was
yes.
typically men did different things and had different roles.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Cool. Can you tell me how sex had anything to do with that shift?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when people are talking about these cultural norms and roles, they're talking about, if you're talking about the roles and norms that are typically associated with the male sex, then that's what counts as a man. And usually if you're talking about the roles
No,
and
you
norms that are
changed it up.
vice
You changed it
versa.
up again, Cody. You changed it. I am asking you a more basic general understanding of the concept of gender in society and how gender comports through changes of society. That is not biological, that is social, correct?
Sure, although it may have a
Okay.
stem from biology because it all stems from the brain. But I mean, I don't know.
How does having
Sure.
a pussy make you wear a dress?
Well, I'm saying that okay, so maybe the liking of a dress, we find like something in the brain that, you know, people with certain brains tend to like certain things. And
Cody,
And that's not
you
even
telling me
true.
that
That's not even true.
wearing a dress is something in my brain that's telling me to wear the dress?
it may, all I said is that may stem from it. I'm not making
So
claim to
like,
this.
are
I'm
you
saying that
telling
it
me like
may stem from it in some way.
cavemen back in the day were like, you know what? I want something that is more loose fitting, and then the other one was like, I'm wearing pants, and it's like biologically
so
written into the DNA of cavemen to dress a
right.
certain way. That's
Right,
funny,
like, do you
Cody.
think
Well,
it's
many people
something
may
in
say
your
your preference.
brain? Like, do you think
Many
Scottish
people.
people have something different in their brain that tell them to wear a kilt, but then American men have something different in their brain?
No.
Like,
With respect, with what you're saying, obviously you could have social factors that influence it, and you know you want to, you know, be a
So,
part of your trend.
Cody,
Like this is all evolution, but I'm saying that
I
your preferences
understand.
may stem from evolutionary. Okay.
No, Cody. I know you're trying to get away from the question that I'm leading you to, the answer I'm leading you to. I get that that's what you're trying to do. I am trying to
I
ask you a
don't.
logical
I'm not.
consistency of the idea that gender, as how it's perceived in society as a social construct, shifts through time
Mhm.
and has nothing to do with biology. Would you agree with that?
That it has nothing to do. I think that there may be a counterexample. Can I present it?
I would love to hear it.
Sure. Okay. So let's just say, for example, that one of the roles or expectations that are attributed to woman is being like more nurturing, or you know, they may be, you know, like working, like nurturing kids more, whatever, something like that. Okay. I would say that
Okay,
woman wants
Isn't
Where does
that a
that
social
come from?
construction? Is that
Where
a
does
social
that comes from?
construction?
Socialization, Cody. That's
Yeah,
taught.
two people.
That's a
Cody.
trait that's taught.
Cody, you know that there are tribes where
Okay.
the women hunt, right? And then the men are the ones who stay behind with the children because the men are safer with the children because they are bigger and stronger and can fight off enemies.
Yes, I grant that there are tribes that do that, but I have a question.
Oh.
Do you guys not think that is biologically or evolutionarily true that men are typically more attracted to things and women typically are, or females are more
Cody,
more like in tune
Cody,
with people?
you are
versus
going down a
material
track of Cody. So evolutionary psychology is largely a pseudoscience, and I think you need to look into this more off the show. But there's a lot of post hoc like logic going on with evolutionary psychology and saying, oh, well, people act in these different ways within their societal roles, therefore it must be something biological that caused that. And we don't have evidence to suggest that. Some of the best things, like what we've been talking about, are these variations across different cultures. And that is so powerful because it shows that these roles are not ingrained in us. These are things that are like, I would go so far to say, yes, historically, way back when society was developing, there were roles set out for you are able to have babies, you're going to have babies, and you're not going to have babies. And sure, some societies have developed social roles kind of based on that. However, they've gone far enough to where that's not the main criteria anymore. Societies have decided that biology gets to play a factor in that, but ultimately that's really not what the crux of the issue is. It is socialization. It's how you're being raised, how you perceive yourself in the society around you. And if you go into some sociology textbooks, there's a lot of debate over like how much of gender is taught or how much is innate to you. And there are people that say that you do gender, that gender is something that you do with the society around you. And it's a lot more complex than just you have these organs, you have the babies, therefore this is how you interact with society. So I think there's a deficit in your education on sociology, and I would recommend you kind of read up on some of that. Even like a lower level gender studies book might be helpful for you to kind of wrap your mind around this particular topic.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have one response to give to that. I just want to say that I said that it's possible that these things stem from the brain. Are you denying the fact that it's possible under some modalities?
That
Am I denying it's possible that certain biological factors could influence your personality and the way you interact with society? Like I think that for some people,
preferences like,
yeah,
like wanting to wear dresses, yeah.
I do not think wearing dresses has nothing to do with
biology,
hormone levels. But like there's some things that tend to be associated with higher levels of certain hormones. Like we do know that aggression can be associated with higher levels of testosterone, but that's not exclusive to men. That's not exclusive to males. The range of hormones that people have is way more individualized than the credit you're giving it. Like you are so terribly generalizing about people when really there's a broader spectrum in that. And I don't know if you know, but everybody is more testosterone dominant than estrogen dominant because we measure those in different, completely different measures of units. Like they are several powers off of each other. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
just to confirm and wrap up that point, do we both agree? It seems like that it is at least possible that these preferences that I've listed do actually stem from your brain or from your mind.
So whether
I'd be thinking it'd be silly for us to rule that out.
Let me clear this up for you, Cody. Gender identity is something that is in our minds. Like gender identity is something that we have. And I am a trans woman and I like makeup and I wear my hair long and I do all these things with this level of femininity that I have, not because I am biologically conditioned to do so. It's because I identify in the gender category of woman, and therefore the social construct of woman is what I live in. I did not create the social construct. I live in it. Does that make sense? Because if we lived in a different world, in a different universe, the way that Ben and I look could be different, could be the opposite of each other. And it based on, but the idea of the social construction is different based on the lived society at the current modern zeitgeist of what that gender construction looks like. And that is why I was going back to the original understanding of gender itself is a fluid thing that shifts through time in society. It has nothing to do with the sex that makes people be the way they are inside of that social construction. So that is why there's a difference between sex and gender, because regardless of whatever sex you are born, you can fall within the different gender social construct of your gender identity, because your gender identity for some people like myself and like Ben are different from the ones that we were assigned at birth. And that's what we're trying to say, because if you can understand that sex and gender are different, then you can understand why a trans woman identifies as a woman.
Which in my view, they are different. I think that we've established that in my view, sex and gender are actually different.
Okay, so a
They
trans woman
technically
is a
can't be the
woman.
same.
So a trans woman is a woman.
That does, respectfully, that doesn't exactly logically follow from that statement alone.
Why?
But I feel like we should maybe.
No,
well,
but Cody, that was your
explanation,
original contention. We've been talking for 33
Okay.
minutes, and your initial contention was that trans women are women is potentially flawed. And I have now determined, I've now given you an argument to say that trans women are women because sex and gender are different, which you said they are. So tell me why
it
a
doesn't
trans
logically
woman.
follow. Yeah.
Why?
Cody,
Yeah.
Cody,
Sorry, but
your
just saying
logic.
sex and gender, sure, I'll explain.
Cody, no,
you want me to explain
we've
first,
talked
or?
about, we've explained the logic of it. And I'm sorry that your Philbro mind cannot comprehend a topic that's more deep than the logic you understand or the sociology you understand. There's some context here. We've been trying to communicate at your level, but like, just because you don't understand the depth of what we're talking about doesn't mean it doesn't logically connect. You have a deficiency in your knowledge base.
It could be, but I just want to briefly just give my justification for why that does not
Please tell
logically
me.
follow. And just
Tell me, please.
for something to logically follow within at least formal logic, that would mean that your argument holds some sort of like truth-preserving structure, okay? And usually
What?
these
No, that's not
structures
how logic
are known as like,
works. That's
Yes,
not
it
how
is.
logic works. A logical statement is like a coconut tree has coconuts and some coconut trees don't.
Mhm.
That's a logical statement, correct?
yes, that's a logical statement. in the
Okay,
sense that there's
so
no contradiction.
some
That's
women
fine.
have
But what I said was also
penises, some
true.
women have penises and some women don't. Is that a logical statement?
Sure, there's no contradiction. Yeah, that's fine. But what I said was true, that for you to say that something follows from something else, which is all that logic studies, logic is the study of what follows from what and why, according to Graham Priest, a famous logician, is something that it needs to hold a truth-preserving sort of deductive structure. And these are usually given names like modus ponens or a hypothetical syllogism. And I'm just saying that
Cody,
just alone with the statement,
you know
that
what this
gender
sounds like to me? Cody, I get that you're mentally masturbating to all this logic. And there's a
didn't want
point
to, but you
where
asked me.
there's a point, Cody, there's a point where all this philosophy is useful. And there's a point where it is really just masturbating and using that to justify bad ideas. So that's what this sounds like to me. We've given you arguments for why our definition is more useful than yours. And when we made our case, and you said, "Oh well, basically it's this big meta truth claim that you have that really doesn't apply to reality beyond that." And it sounds like you want to sound smart, and you want to keep your viewpoints the same. So you're going to ignore the utility and go to this into the weeds Philbro discussion point so you can keep your views and not actually have to address anything that we talked about.
Yeah. And I just want to say this really fast, Cody. I mean, I will say this and I'll let you get your logical statement in real quick. Okay. So
Sure.
if you saw if you were looking in the corner of a room and you saw a group of people and they were a black woman, a red-haired woman, a cis woman, and a trans woman, would you say those women over there if you didn't know one of them was trans?
I would, in the same way that if I had a pile of money and there was a counterfeit bill between that pile of money, I would also say that that's a pile of real money. But even though there was a counterfeit bill in between all of it.
So again, we're going back. Okay, fine. So you believe that a trans woman is not a woman. And so when I say a trans woman is a woman, and I'm going to use your logical statement because gender and sex are different, does that not comport?
Sure.
If you like, okay, so Cody, I want you to work with me. Okay. I want you to just in this logic, we want to play logic games. Let's play logic games. So if you for the sake of argument, Cody, believe that there's a complete difference between sex and gender, would the statement a trans woman is a woman make logical sense?
Technically not quite, although it helps, but it doesn't quite get you there. And let me give my
I'm
reason
just saying,
why.
Cody, wait. I wanted you to play the thought experiment, and I'll play yours. I want you, for the sake of argument,
Doesn't get you there.
for the sake of argument, I'm saying this. I'll say, if let's say you agree that sex and gender are completely different.
Okay.
If sex and gender are completely different, for the sake of argument.
Oh, completely different. Completely different. I didn't know that before. Sorry.
Yes. Would a trans woman is a woman comport to reality?
Yes, there would be at least most trans women or all trans women would be women if I did hold to those commitments. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. Now, that is what trans people are saying, because our point of view of gender is that sex and gender are different. So because we know that sex and gender is different, that's why we say trans women are women. So that's where we're coming from. Okay, so that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's what trans people are saying. That's why I never say that trans people are delusional or trans people are lying. Because you guys, when you say your statement, it is true index to your semantics. Yes.
And to a lot of people in the world, right? A lot of people that are not trans also say trans women are women. Okay. So now the reason I'm taking down this road is now we're at an impasse, because your statement is that sex and gender are not different, and I'm going to disagree with the lived experience of all the people who believe that statement to be true. So now,
I don't think
what is the utility? What is the utility? Yeah, what is the utility of that impasse of basically saying that all of these people around the world are wrong about the fact that trans women are not women versus trans women are women?
Okay, so let me address like two things. So number one, like the utility of my worldview. Besides the fact that it's simple and simplicity is usually considered a virtue in philosophy, I think that
is trans women are women not simple? Is trans women are women not simple? That's a pretty simple statement. It's just as many words as yours. Yours is a simple. Yours is like adult human female. That's simple. Of trans women or women are simple. It's almost the same exact words. I think it is the same sentence, the same number of words.
Let me try to illuminate what I'm specifically referring to. All right, there's something known as Occam's razor, and then there's something called a modified version of Occam's razor, which
Occam's razor isn't actually a philosophical thought. It's not actually a real thing. Occam's razor is not a thing. It is a thing that is used in shorthand, but is not a way to logically find out if something is true or not.
I'm going to have contentions with what you just said, but aside from that,
Occam's razor is not a way to find truth, Cody. It's like eyeballing a cut on a piece of wood. It's literally a shorthand to try to find out what something is true, because because that's what they say. But Occam's razor is not always true. So like if you say
it's
that,
incredibly prone to bias. Like it's incredibly prone to bias. I never said it's always
true.
So why use it as a way to find truth? So Cody, why would you use it in a world? is it, Cody. If you are using epistemology to find out what is true, you cannot use Occam's razor.
Okay, if you don't think so, I mean, I'm going to strongly disagree just based off an example like this. Let's say that we have
Cody,
two worldviews that are equal.
Cody, you're contradicting
Okay,
yourself
I
because
can't get the-
you just said, Cody, you just said not too long ago that we needed to go down this philosophical rabbit hole because we needed to get to the ultimate truth of the matter in order to be honest. And now you're saying that it's okay to use Occam's razor for this. Like, so it's okay.
I don't want. Listen,
I'm
honestly
confused
don't
about
want to
it.
have a
Sounds
debate
like
about Occam's razor.
Well, that's what you wanted to do.
Cody, it sounds like you like Cody. It sounds like you like your idea and you want your idea to be true. And instead of caring about the lived experience and the real world complications of this discussion, you just want to be right so bad that you're going to go to whatever like's necessary to sound right and to sound smart instead of prioritizing the actual human lives in front of you who are at the balance of this discussion, right? Like wherever we arrive with this discussion, real people suffer consequences from it. And so if you want to play these games, play them honestly. Where are we, like, how do we make decisions on what's true and what isn't? And go ahead.
Okay. I need to give two important statements. Number one, I understand that I may have brought up complex things, but I really don't want to have a debate about whether Occam's razor is mathematically justified. I don't want to talk about ontological parsimony. I don't want to talk about these things. I feel like I could, but I don't want to because I want to talk about the utility aspect that you keep talking about.
Cody, okay, I'm muting you because we just went into utility. We just told you why our position is more useful, and you dodged that as well to go into the philosophical weeds. And now that we followed you into the philosophical weeds, you're like, oh no, I don't want to go there. I could, but I don't want to. So I'm going to go back to utility. You were literally just listening to the sound of your own voice and dodging every point that we follow you on. Because I think, like, and this is what drives me nuts about these Philbro arguments. It's like, you think that you're so intelligent and you think that we can't understand your complex perspective. And then we actually follow you there and we actually go toe to toe with you. And then you just dodge there. Like, I think we're done with this call.
Well, Cody, I unmute him and then we'll move on.
Okay.
So we can say, Cody, I just want to say real quick, we've been on this call for 45 minutes and we try not to last longer than that. Mm-hmm. So I would love for you to call back another time, because we could go around the bend with you, and I'm actually enjoying the conversation I'm having with you right now. And so if you could call back another time, I would love to get in more deep, and we can start at the logical inconsistency if you want, and then go from there. But we do have to move on to another call. It's not anything personal.
That's fine. I understand.
Yep.
I understand. Yeah. All right. We'll try some other time. I appreciate it, guys.
Awesome, right. Cody. Thank you so much.
Take care, Cody.
Bye-bye.
All right. So just a reminder that we do have open lines, especially for contentious callers. We've had a few so far, but we do have open lines specifically for debate calls. So once again, the number is on the screen, 720-619-2288. Please give us a call if you'd like to have a disagreement with us. And even if you're a trans person and you have a hot take that you think we'll disagree with, we'll consider taking you on the show. So it's worth a shot. Give us a call. And there was
somebody who just asked, what is a trans person? Call and we'll explain.
A couple announcements. I want to get a couple announcements before we go on. First of all, if you are sitting there in the side chat, thank you so much for being here. If you have not liked the video and subscribed to the channel, you should do that, because why are you sitting here live listening to us argue when you haven't liked the video? So please give us a like. That is a free way to help us out. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. All of that does boost the show and the algorithm. So please make sure to do that. Share out the video, comment in the side chat, comment below the video. All those things help out a lot. And again, send in your super chats, $5 or more, to get us to debate silly topics at the end of the show. And we do have other shows on this channel that I just quickly want to mention. So, of course, you are here watching the Transatlantic Call-In Show. But the next show is on Sunday, the Sunday show with Promise and Seth Andrews, and then the Sunday show After Dark with Matt Dillahunty and Dr. Aaron Adair. And then there is show with Jimmy and Jovan on the Jimmy Snow and the Lion channel, so don't miss that one. On Monday, there's Skeptalk with Dr. Aaron Adair and Justin D. Construction Zone, another Calling It Now with Promise, and then Chewed Gum on Tuesday with Skeptical Heretic and Alyssa, and then another show on Jimmy's channel with Jimmy and Ari Mermaid. And then on Wednesday, we have the Hang Up with Justin and Blitz PhD. So a lot of things going on this next week. Don't miss out.
Yeah.
Also, if you missed Lexander on TACIS this week, I will be on with Jovan after this show. You'll get redirected to it. It's going to be great.
Yay.
Yes.
Fun. And can you believe we're only 1,000 subscribers away from getting to 200,000? If you have not subscribed yet, you could be lucky 200,000. So
yes,
do
get
that
that
now.
button.
Hit that button and like and share. Awesome. So it looks like we can jump right next to 17-7, who wants to defend Cody.
All right, Eleanor, she, her from Washington. You are live on the line with Dr. Ben and Josie. What would you like to talk about?
Wants to defend Cody on providing that sex is a social construct. Please tell us how that is true.
All right, so I was looking for my water bottle because whatever. So Cody mentioned a few things about sex traits. I believe he mentioned 5 axes of sex traits. That is, from, if memory serves, a legit thing. Here's something I'm not sure Cody considered, and it is kind of important here. How those traits are observed, fun word, epistemics, epistemology, how any individual's epistemology of those 5 axes isn't quite right. Classes of sex traits, our process is highly contextual. It's very contingent on social circumstances. It is socially constructed, and particulars of those judgments, for example, Adam's apples, as he mentioned, protruding Adam's apples, that is textual on a broader social context, such as Western, generally white, European social development. So I had some notes and I forgot them.
No worries. So Eleanor, so are you trying? So what's your crux of your argument here? Oh, did we lose
Can you
you?
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Can you
now.
hear
Go
me?
ahead. Yes.
Okay. I think my mic just slipped out there for a second.
No worries.
I get so nervous every time I call in.
No worries. You're doing great.
I gotta close the chat because they're distracting me.
Oh yeah, don't listen to
Yeah,
chat.
don't read the chat.
They always distract. Sometimes they make me laugh and can't
Western
stop.
Washington. I have a running joke that I'm a Cascadian nationalist, so ha. Anyway.
Okay.
Cody essentially proved that sex is a social construct, and why that's important, I believe Simone de Beauvoir wrote about it in The Second Sex, and that is genuinely important. Ben, Josie, one of you, do either of you have a whiteboard around?
I mean,
I don't. I need to get one though. I need to get a whiteboard.
I don't have a small one. I just have a giant one. Yeah. Oh man, I just messed up my camera. Hold
But yeah,
on.
that's interesting. So your argument that sex is a social construct, not that gender is, but that sex is
Gender is
a
also a
social
social
construct.
or at least
Okay. Okay. So
the
they're both
language
a
here is
social
kind of
construct. All
limited
right.
because I don't believe that
Mhm.
sex or gender are in themselves social constructs. They are socially constructed upon, and those social constructs don't really have names. So, like, we have different names for race and ethnicity, right? Race is a social construct abstracting over ethnicity. They're not the same thing. We do have social constructs abstracting over sex. We have social constructs abstracting over gender, but we don't have names for those social constructs rather than the things themselves. I think you'll agree that gender exists abstract of social construction. I think you'll agree that sex exists abstract of social construction. And I really should have written all this down.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Are you in speech and debate? Curious.
I was for a long time.
No worries. I understand. I was a speech and debate nerd, and I remember when I was younger, I would have to kind of write down my thoughts to get everything exactly the way that I thought. But I get what you're trying to say. I would say that social construction is an incredibly complex theory, and you could essentially say that most things are socially constructed. So
Or at
for
least socially
example,
constructed upon.
yeah, so like, currency is socially constructed, right? Like the idea, the value,
Ooh,
right? Like
careful distinction there. Money is socially constructed. Currency is not. Currency is in fact rigorously defined and is an emergent behavior of any sufficiently complex society which has anything resembling an economy. Economies are in turn emergent behaviors of any sufficiently complex society.
but
It's not possible to abolish currency. Sorry, that's an entire rant I have. Money is a social construct.
But you have to
Currency
have
is not.
social. You have to have. Okay, now you're gonna get me in a rabbit hole. All right, I the gold medalist debate champion. Okay, like the reality is like you still have to have a
I was in
social
court on Monday.
contract. I know the you still have to have a social contract for currency for the transfer of goods and making sure even in a barter economy you still have to have a social contract which is based on a social reality of people being together. So the idea is so currency in the animal kingdom isn't really a thing, for example. So you have to understand like in our
because it's not
human
sufficiently
society.
complex.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the value of currency and everything that the idea of currency is based on a social behavior. So therefore, it's a part of the social construct of how we transfer goods from one another. It's just how we choose to do it. Right? If we didn't have currency,
Yes.
what if it was just like if you just smiled the right way, then you get everything you wanted? Right? Like,
Okay, so
like would that be a form of currency? So I again,
potentially, yes. It doesn't have to be material. For example, the rhinestones over in, was it Polynesia or something? Those aren't a material currency. There is material objects backing the currency, but it is not itself a material currency because you're not handing a 4-ton rock to someone to get food. The actual currency is the effective entries on the communal ledger, which is actually where various crypto bros got their ideas.
But again, Eleanor, I have to say, the economy, and I know I'm getting really nerdy here. The economy isn't like rain, right? It's not like the weather. It's still created. So the creation of the economy is a derivative of the social need of humanity. So therefore, because the economy is created by people, therefore everything that the economy produces is a social construct. Or how it exists, because it wouldn't exist in nature without human minds. So the economy wouldn't exist without humans. So if the economy wouldn't exist for humans, it wouldn't exist without humans. No, see, now you're just going. See, now you're reaching. See, so the idea about the economy is a social construction because it necessitates the human social contract of people living in society. And that's how you get it. Like that's my contention. But anyways,
Well, and
we've gone
even
too
even if
far
you
off.
had even if you have other organisms that are engaging those behaviors, that's still societal behavior.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
yeah,
it is socially constructed, and that's part of the reason I'm saying
So
that
point to
currency
Josie.
is the underlying thing, which money is socially constructed on top of which
Yes.
money is socially constructed. I've
Is
been watching my dangling participate.
money is a nesting doll of social constructions, right? Like you have to have a social construction to
Right,
create the
yeah.
social construction of money. So therefore this it like that's the beauty of humanity is like we socially construct things, but things like, you know, time and all of those type of things, the weather, like natural phenomenons, those aren't social constructions because they would exist without humans.
Sort of. It's pretty well known that different animals experience time at different rates.
Well,
But
that's what I mean. That's what I
that's a
mean.
different
Time
thing.
is not a social construction. Time isn't a
Okay,
social
I
construction
get what you're
because
saying.
things
Sorry, I
age.
misheard you.
Things age.
I
The
misheard you.
way we measure time is a social construction, but the fact that time exists is something that is a natural phenomenon. You're not gonna get me,
So-
girl. You're not gonna pin me down.
Josie, I misheard
all right. So
you.
what's the argument about gender?
No, I think we're past that.
We gotta
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah, I think we're past that. Well, I
I don't wanna
appreciate you,
be-
Eleanor. I
Yeah.
do, I do. But it was a fun little exercise.
We were waiting
was
for
a good-
Ben to return. That's what was
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else for us, Eleanor?
Yes. So Cody made a few comments about sex being socially constructed, and that is kind of important to the point I'm trying to make. So I've called in before. I've said I'm a theist. I've said I really don't want to investigate that on this show because it's just kind of axiomatic to my worldview. It makes a lot of things a lot easier. I will say less than a year ago, I was in pretty much the exact same position as Cody is in right now. I was very much a Philbro. I was trying so hard to logic my, well, not logic, but like ontology my way out of taking HRT, right?
Yeah.
I was just taking the damn estradiol valerate. And hey, Cody, you know you can just try it. Planned Parenthood has informed consent. You can just try it for 2 weeks. There's no permanent effect before 3 to 6 months. Anyway,
Yeah.
not
yeah.
medical
Well,
advice. I am not a doctor. Talk to Ben. He's a doctor.
yes.
Or
You know,
your own doctor.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you. Yeah, no, it's fine. So Eleanor, like, yeah, and you know, there's a lot of shows that will help you with the deconstruction of the question,
Oh,
but
heavens,
like,
I have already deconstructed so much.
oh, okay, you said you were
It's
a
really
theist.
funny
I thought you
because I-
said you were a theist.
Yes, I used to be a Pentecostal
Oh.
Baptist, and now I'm a mostly progressive Lutheran.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
So-
enough.
Yeah, you're not going to pin me down.
Yeah, fair. I can.
Yeah, it was like-
I just won't.
Ooh, you're going to have a tough time. You're going to have a tough time. I'm really freaking tempted, but I'm not. I'm not. It was very
Yeah.
interesting because it was like one right after the other. It was like, oh shit, Pentecostalism is completely ahistorical and makes no sense in the lens of the church fathers and 2 millennia of church consensus. Oh no. And so basically, I just tore everything down. I know. I tore everything down and was like, okay, what can I actually figure out from this? And then after quite a lot of church shopping, I figured out, oh, I'm a Lutheran, which is really funny because my entire family, historically speaking, was Lutheran until both my parents went and estranged themselves. It's a whole thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
so like, first,
Well,
oh, I'm a Lutheran. Oh, I'm autistic. I'm an ADHD, and I'm a girl. Shit.
have you ever considered that that's why you're trans? Just kidding.
Oh no. Call back.
Yes,
Oh my God, call back to the first call.
Yeah.
Call back to the first call. No, I appreciate you, Eleanor. You've been a joy.
Oh,
I would love to chat with you more. We do have full
am I
lines.
taking up time?
No, it's fine. It's not. It's just that this has been a fun call, and I can get pedantic and like go into logical holes with you as much as I can. But we do have some spicy callers, so I would love to get to
Mhm.
those.
I'm frustrated because I actually had something spicy that I wanted to defend, and I
Which
cannot
is
remember what it was.
oh, it's fine. You'll
It
call
was
back later.
something
Call
that
back
he said.
later.
I was
Call back next week. Write everything down once you remember it, because it's going to come back to you right after you
Yeah.
hang up.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
wait, no,
have to.
And
I'm
then
gonna have
write
to
it
watch
down
back.
and call in next week, because I think Josie, you said you're on next week, right? Is it
I'm
you?
not on next week.
You're not
It's
on next week. Either way,
Lux
you'll
and
talk with.
somebody else.
Oh, is it Lux and Riverboat Jack? Either way, you can talk to them next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Bit of
Awesome.
a preview for I guess for
Yeah.
other shenanigans.
Now everybody's gonna tune in
Yeah.
next week just to find out what your argument was. Yeah. Tune in next
It's
time to find out more.
Ben, are you on next week?
I'm not sure if I'm on next week. I need to double check. It's my schedule is explodes.
I have the schedule right here. Next week is Lux and Riverboat Jack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
they're
neither
great.
of us are on next week.
Yeah, they're great. You'll have fun.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Eleanor, you have a great rest of your day, okay?
Oh, Jack is gonna hate the geomutualism thing. The reason I called it is because I knew you would hate this, Ben. And I forget what it was.
Okay. Sorry.
Awesome. All right, Eleanor, have a great
right.
rest of your
Sorry.
day. It's okay.
Yeah, you
All right.
too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. I'm
All right.
thinking 21-1.
22-1? Yeah.
Or 28 or 28. I don't know.
I think let's do, I think 22-1 first.
Okay, great.
Unless we want to keep like 3 calls in a row all about Cody.
Let's go. It depends because it keeps
Yeah.
the viewers on connected to the same stream. Let's do 20. No, I'm gonna go 22-1.
Okay. Yep. Let's do that one. All right, we're gonna talk to Noai. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Noai Any All from Spain. You are live on the line with Dr. Ben and Josie. Sounds like you want to talk about completely separating sex from gender when the general public doesn't. Give us your argument.
Yeah, hello. So it was more of a question, like, why are we trying to do this? Why are we trying to separate them completely when the general public doesn't?
Yeah, it's
Like,
about
what do we gain from doing that?
we gain a better way of describing the human experience. Because if we do not evolve how we speak to each other and understand and discover how the human experience looks, we'll become more rigid. So I will grant you, in a lot of parts of the world, colloquially, I can never say that word. But it's like colloquially, we look at the world as like men and women are who they are. It's like this is how it is, and they kind of blend sex and gender. But when you actually think about the complete human experience, it's better to go into more detail when those general terms do not comport with the lived experience of other human beings. So, for example, you can divide a human identity right now as we have it. We don't know, they may be more later in time. But right now, I would say that there is 5. There is sex, which is your biological construct of how you're born. You have gender identity, right? So that one is like what you identify as. You have gender expression, so how you fall within the masculine, feminine, or anywhere inside or between, how that looks. That's your gender expression. Sexual orientation, the people and the gender that you're attracted to. And then you also have relationship configuration, meaning that you can love 0 to many people. Most people are just love one person at a time. So when we're able to divide those things into those terms, you're more accurately able to describe oneself. So for me, I can say my sex is assigned male at birth. I am a woman, that's my gender expression. I am a feminine, so I present very femininely. That's my gender expression. I'm bi, so I'm attracted to all genders. And I also am polyamorous, so meaning I can have more than one relationship. So that is a better descriptor than trying to use a more general term. So it's utility, right? It's the ability to describe oneself in a more accurate way. Does that make sense? That's why.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, but I just hate the concept of describing ourselves like that.
Why?
I feel like if I say, for example, I'm bisexual.
Okay.
I feel like having that sentence in my head, having that story about me that I tell myself, might affect my behavior.
Well, are you bi or not?
I am, yeah.
So why? So what's the problem with people knowing that you're bi?
Well, it's not the no. It's the okay. Maybe bi was a bad example because I don't think sexuality like.
That's your sexual orientation. You have it. A lot of people have sexual
Yeah.
orientation, either straight or even ace or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Sorry.
sexual
Let's
orientation.
just change the example. If I tell myself I am, if I tell myself I'm a compassionate person, for example, I think.
Well, that's more
having
of a
that sentence in my
quality.
head.
That's not a that's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
an
yeah, but
identity. That's a quality about you. It's
But
not
it-
an identity.
but when we define ourselves based on gender, I think it's things like that that go into it, right?
So, do you have a sense of gender yourself?
No,
give me your best. Okay, so you don't have a gender. You're agender.
no, I think I hate the concept. I think it's yeah.
Okay, so that's agender. That's a type of gender identity.
And
So,
something along this, like going into this is exactly where I was going to go with this discussion as well. It is part of the reason why it's so important to separate these things out is so that people who don't identify with purely man or purely woman have a way to integrate with society and exist in ways that accommodate who they are without saying you have to be in one space or another. So it allows for people to be authentic and allows people to exist outside of the like coloring in the lines that society prescribed for you. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a clear sense of gender, having the separation of gender that's different from your sex is important so that you can exist in that most authentic way and not have to force yourself to be a man or a woman if that's not how you identify.
Right, but I just don't do that because I think that doing that it would be stupid, like forcing myself to do something because
so say,
it's
but
expected of me
remember,
by society.
gender identity isn't a personality, right? Gender identity is just what you are. So would you say you're a man? No, right?
I was born with a dick. That's like all I can tell you, I
Well,
guess.
that's you're biologically male. That's different than being a man. Are you a man?
It depends by like what you mean by man. If you're talking about
Okay.
gender as a completely
So
separate thing from sex, or yeah.
So if I said you're a man, how does that land to you?
I don't care. Like at the end of the day, it's just some sound waves that are coming out of your mouth.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. And this is very, very important, right? And there is a reason why there are people like yourself, right, that are just like, why does gender matter so much? Why does it matter? Like, it's like, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. People can call me a woman or a man or whatever. I don't care because it has nothing that doesn't affect me in any way, right? So it's okay that that's your lived experience, but there's a lot of people, most people, like if you were to call like a man a woman, they might punch you in the face, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Of course I'm a man, blah, blah, blah. And they get offended. You know, have you ever
Yeah.
called
Well, my
a
point would be
woman
that that's
a
kind of
man by
pathetic and
accident?
nobody should be like that.
Well, no, that's not your, that you can't choose that for people, right? Like it is like, it's like trying to sell somebody who is asexual. And sorry, Ben, if I'm talking about you when you're sitting right here, but like if you're talking about somebody who's asexual, you say, well, why don't you want to have sex? Or an asexual person saying, why do people have sex? It's a waste of time. It's gross. It's messy. It's like, why, you know, all that type of stuff. I'm not going to do that. Why do you do that? Why do you care about it so much? That would be really weird to say to a person who loves sex, right, Noah? Or Noe? Sorry, I don't know how to
Yeah.
pronounce your name. Is your name Noe? How do you pronounce your name?
It's no I.
Noai, thank you. So Noai, would that be pretty pathetic if somebody who hates sex and doesn't want to have sex or has no understanding or concept of why people have sex to tell other people who like sex to not like sex? Does that make sense? Would you do that? Would that be weird if somebody did that?
Yeah, but like the word pathetic comes from, like, the reason I'm using the word is it's about the being, sorry, how do I word this? It's being able to be hurt so easily by something external, like a word.
It's not, but
It's not a
that's
choice.
yeah.
It's not a choice. You don't have a choice to have
Yeah, you
feelings
don't have a
about
choice. Yeah.
certain interactions. And I don't think, like, something that is actually shown to be problematic is, like, are you familiar with conversion therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that ends up being really problematic because that's somebody telling you, hey, just don't be bothered by this. I know that
Yep.
you are gay, but just pretend that you're not. Like, just exist as if you aren't. I know that you think that you're trans, but just pretend that you're not. Like, you can't control
No, it would.
those things about you. And it doesn't make you, like, pretending to be straight, pretending to be cis doesn't change who you are, and it doesn't change how you feel about it. And something that Arden was talking about the last time I was on is mentioning how a lot of trans people end up getting a diagnosis of bipolar disorder simply because they've come up with a compensatory mechanism to try to separate themselves from the person they're supposed to be, that they can't be. And it ends up causing more and more problems for people because they have to exist as somebody that they just are not. And so even if that's not an experience you identify with, it's kind of problematic. Like Josie was saying, it's problematic to say, well, I'm not bothered by this and they shouldn't be either.
No,
That's where we need to meet
I
people
think
with
I think
empathy.
I might have not explained. Like, okay, just for context, I have an appointment like in about a month, to get like like orientation about possibly going on HRT.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm just doing that because I feel like I might be like, I'm just doing that because I want to. Like, it's not.
Yeah. But it doesn't have
Yeah.
to
So
be
so I'm
related.
not saying people should not transition. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I
I
understand.
might have.
I understand what you're saying. I do. But just because you're doing that could be related to your gender expression or how you feel physically, or maybe it's more of you trying to bend the sex category that you were assigned. That doesn't necessarily need to be about your gender identity. That's a very specific thing. And if you do not have a gender identity, that's okay. It's just that most of the world does.
Do they though?
Yes, they do. Yeah, it is very, very
Yep.
real. Yeah. Gender identity is very, very real. And it's most people. In fact, you're the
Like,
minority to not have one.
but like, there's no way people are like, okay, I belong to this category, so I will do these things because they are expected of me.
Yeah, that's gender identity
Yeah.
for you. Yeah, that's
But that's
it, it doesn't make sense because you don't have one.
It's wild to really think about how different people's brains work outside of your own, because of course you you were born and grew up with the way that your brain works. But this seems like a little bit of a tangent, but I promise it's related. Like how people process like an inner monologue or an inner picture. I don't have an audible voice. Like I do not have an inner monologue. Like so I thought that that was just like a phrase people said to describe their inner movie because I have a motion picture in my head. I do not have words in my head unless it's in a picture form. So it's like I cannot compute that people think in that way. Or like I also can't compute that there are people who think in black and white or who think in low detailed images. Or like it's amazing to think about how different people's brains work. But it's also kind of fascinating. And it's I think if you embrace that and say, oh, this is how I work and it's different than other people, but that's kind of cool. Like, and for me, it understanding that I was trans and that my gender identity was different than what I was assigned, like helped me be more ready to recognize that other people are different. Like, I don't understand trans women. I do not understand how they could want to like be the way that they are, but they love it, and I'm like, good for you. Like I think it's okay. I think it's okay to not understand those things. But I think that's also why it's so important that we continue to have these conversations, because just at least understanding who has a similar experience to me or who doesn't might make it easier for you to figure out, how do I express myself? What are the things that do matter to me? How do I become an advocate for other people who I don't understand? So I think um, I think you're getting to a good place of understanding with this, but it's just it's fascinating how different brains can be, even though the rest of our bodies function relatively similarly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I get the not understanding but still respecting in the like you just said. I just don't understand trans men, just like you don't understand trans women. But I respect I respect, yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
But I cannot like respect uh yeah, like just doing something because it's expected of you.
It's not
Like
because it's expected.
it
That's
feels
that's
like
it. I want to
turning your
get
brain off.
N that's not see, and that's again, it's because you're trying to explain something you don't have. It's not that we are like, I gotta do this with my hair because this is how I am. It's more of I'm doing this to live in the social construction of my sisters, the feminine sisters that I have, and it's like my schema of what a woman is makes me who I am, and what makes my gender expression as a woman, because it maps, is what it is for me. And it has nothing to do with like I'm being forced to do this. It's just that I live inside of a social construction that makes me comfortable. It's what makes me feel confident, for example. So when I have like a couple power dresses, right, that I make me feel very good and make me feel very powerful. Sometimes I do a bolder eye line because it makes me feel better. And that's what it is. I cannot explain to you why that is. It's just that it allows me to feel the confidence that I am as a woman in society, that allows me to be a woman of power, a woman of leadership. And that's how I put it into my head on how I stand up. Or sometimes I'm just wearing sweats and a t-shirt and just sitting on the couch and I'm doing it in a feminine way. All right. Like so it is just how my mind feels its comfort. And some people like yourself don't have those trappings in that way.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Okay.
And no, I've had many conversations on this show about this, right? And where people come to terms with the understanding that they don't have a gender identity, and not having a gender identity, if you're able to understand that other people do and how they show up in the world is just who they are, is just part of the understanding. Just like people like myself who's polyamorous, I don't understand why people are monogamous. Like, I'm like, why are you monogamous? Since you're asking one person to do everything for you, that sucks. But that's my opinion. I cannot sit there and tell non-monogamous people to not be non-monogamous, because my sister is incredibly monogamous. That's who she is. She's a little serial monogamous sometimes, but she is monogamous. She only wants one person at a time. That's it. That's all she has. And for me, when I'm single, when I'm dating like 10 people at once. It's like it's a little bonkers. But you know, when I'm in a relationship, sometimes I'll date one person here and there, but that's just how it shows up for me, right?
Okay. Can I ask another question?
Please.
Yes, I think during the Cody call you said earlier that you are a woman and because of that you do XYZ.
Say that one more time. I
It's
got distracted. Oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I'm like, I think
yeah,
during the
it's a
Cody
little
call I
bit.
heard you say that. Oh,
Yeah, no, it's a little bit complicated because of the fact that gender is such a dynamic social construct. And on the one hand, you have your identity and your expression, which are all kind of intrinsic to you. But there's also this layer of how do I interact with society in a way that is the least painful? And for
yeah,
some people, that is conformity. And that's where the piece like you're saying comes in. So there may be people who are agender who just decide they don't care as much and they would rather go through the motions of the like societal gender roles and not have to explain themselves to people. And that's one way that
yeah, yeah,
people approach it. Other people just say, fuck the norms. I'm going to do me the best that I can. And I don't care if I have to explain it to all these people. I don't owe people anything. I'm going to do what I want. And I think there's a variety of different approaches to this. And so some people, their expression perfectly aligns with the way society views gender. And so it's easy for them to exist and be assumed to be the gender that they are. Other people have a bit of like differences from like maybe they dress more androgynously, or maybe there's something that they're not recognized as their gender right away. And so it can be a little bit complicated of how do I engage with a society that isn't quite ready to accept who I am yet. And so I know for a lot of people, they end up uh, assimilating a bit more. It's a terrible word, but there are people who will embrace hyperfemininity or hypermasculinity for the sake of survival in society. And that, I think, it's a problem that we have to do that. And so I think the answer there isn't necessarily to maintain those norms. It's to improve education on these topics, improve the ability to be authentic and not face discrimination. And so
yeah,
ultimately, the goal is for all of us to be able to express authentically. But for the time being, I think some people would agree with you that they kind of have to go through the motions a little bit in order to survive. So I think the answer to that is
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
bit complex and depending on the individual.
Yeah.
It's just I had possibly a follow-up question because like if you like if you're whatever gender and you start doing the things that are expected of that gender for like safety or whatever, um, it kind of follows that you don't care about those things that much because you're able to do whichever one is just expected of you, right? So then what is the transition about is what I wanted to ask. Is it about
Well,
changing your sex? Like what is
no, and like for some people, like I said, some people are going through the motions to uh, avoid harassment, but I would say probably the majority of people genuinely like the way that they are expressing. And so, especially with transition and the traits you're going to gain from transition, yes, there's still absolutely a component of safety. And I can't speak on behalf of trans women, but especially trans women are targeted for violence when they don't meet certain expectations. And so I do see where that can come in, and Josie can maybe correct me on that. But there are also people, probably the majority of them, that undergo transition because they feel better with it. They feel more like themselves with it. They are the person that they want to be. Like I remember just my top surgery was one of the best things I ever did with my life. And I rarely ever, like, I really don't go anywhere shirtless. There's nobody really that sees the fact that I've had top surgery, but I feel more like myself with it. So I think it's a combination of factors of what drives somebody to transition, and that why might be different for every person about why, like, what is the biggest reason for them to undergo that. And I get your experiencing thoughts of, do you want to transition? And so the why for you is going to be uniquely yours, but even asking other people kind of why they did it might help inspire you to think, do your experiences align with somebody else in any way, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like, okay, so my experience, like, from since pretty young, I remember like coming across some form of trans people. Like, I don't know if it was drag queens or like anything else, but I remember thinking, like, I don't know if I want to do that, but I feel some sort of empathy, or sort of like, I get why someone would want to do that. And yeah, so when I thought that, it was about, like, my thought was, I get why someone would want to change their sex, right? That was my thought. And sometime after, I remember hearing, the term transsexual is actually outdated. It's so offensive. It's not about sex, it's about gender. So the term is now transgender. And at that point, I had to be like, well, I guess I'm not trans, because apparently this is all about gender, and I don't like I think that's a stupid concept, blah, blah, blah. So I guess I'm not trans, and it's taken me like 20 years
think
to
about,
basically reach the point where I'm like,
yeah,
I feel like I can just do this because I want to. But like,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah,
Anyway,
you absolutely can. And I would get the
Yeah.
argument that trans isn't always going from male to female or female to male. It's any gender that is not what you were assigned at birth. So that includes non-binary identities, that includes agender. Like, you weren't assigned, like, most people were not assigned a gender. So identifying as a gender would, I think, put you in a category of trans because it's not what you were assigned. So
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
gonna have to move on
We're
to
gonna have
other
to move
callers
on.
because we're
I
running short on
say,
time.
Noe, just as a final note on this, is you do what makes you happy. And if you have no gender identity, but you want to have breast, or if you want to have, different parts of your body represented differently on your body, it doesn't have to be associated with your gender. It can be associated with how you want to show up in the world physically, and that's okay. And so at the end of the day, it is something that is not cis, like Ben said. I would say, I would argue and say, you are some form of trans gender. It's just that you just don't have a gender itself, but your want to make your body present the way that you are is completely valid and okay, even if you have a gender identity or not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if
Well,
you want to get some, if you want to think about this a bit more, and then call in next week when Luxander is on, Lux can bring a more agender perspective to the equation. So it might be worth revisiting a conversation with people next week.
okay. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'll keep it in mind. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Appreciate
Take
you.
care. All right. So I feel like the other one we should for sure take is 28, and then we'll see how long these
Sorry
take,
for the
and then
calls. I'm sorry for the calls that have been
yeah.
waiting for a while. It's just how the show goes sometimes, but we are going to try to get to all of you. But
Mhm.
we're going to try to get through them quickly.
All right. So you think we'll go to 28?
Yeah, we'll go to that
Next.
one.
All right. Let's talk with Dakota, they, them from Washington. You are live on the line with Dr. Ben and Josie. It sounds like you think we mishandled the call with Cody. Tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah. I just feel like everyone's stumbling over this idea of sex and gender. And, you know, they call in and they say, well, it's between your legs, right? That's what matters. That's the sex. And we say, no, no, no. When really, like, when people are talking, you know, they're not talking like logicians to each other, right? Like a logician hears sex and gender is the same thing and goes, no, you're just so wrong. But like a normal person goes, yeah, they are, because they are for like 99% of the population. And I'm 41. I'm finally accepted that I'm trans. I'm at that stage where it's just a lot of like frustration and like grief. And, you know, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to deal like with this in my, like my family, my kids, my, you know, my parents, all that stuff. So I've been listening to you guys a lot and it's really good, but kind of consistently, I feel like we're losing people because they're calling in trying to talk to a person and we're treating them like they're logicians.
Dakota, one thing I will say is that you were talking about the call with Cody. Cody
Yeah.
was specifically
Yeah.
trying to be a philosopher. So I think that's like, I definitely
Sure.
like to take a more human approach with people, but Cody was not, that's not what Cody was calling in for. Cody was calling in to be a logician. So I think that we do need to handle things differently with different people. And so I think saying that we need to handle things all in a certain way for everybody is kind of unrealistic. I think
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I've listened to you guys a lot, and I'm sure it's happened, but you know, just the stupid pattern recognition part of my brain goes, they're calling in, even if they want to be like adversarial, like it's really disarming when someone agrees with you. And in this case, like especially how they're thinking about it, they're right. Like, and we bring up things like syndromes and chromosomal anomalies, and they go, well, yeah, but that's a disorder. That's an anomaly. And I've not once heard somebody pause and go, yeah, you're right. So what? Or like, yeah, you're right. You called into a show
Dakota,
about anomalies.
you haven't listened to me enough then.
Yeah, and you haven't listened to me enough either. I rarely talk about chromosomes and stuff. I usually go straight into social construction immediately.
Sure.
Yeah,
and that's fair.
you've
I mean,
heard,
Dakota,
you've
the
heard
reason-
right?
This is the broad brush.
Dakota, the
I'm painting
reason
with a broad brush.
Fair.
Dakota, the reason why I go into chromosomes and the biology for people is because they come in with a biological claim. And usually those discussions are about healthcare. And so my issue is people who are trying to make policy about healthcare should be able to understand the healthcare that they want to make policy about. So I think like the problem is, like, as much as I want to handhold people and use the kid gloves, there are some issues where it is not worth that. And quite honestly, I care more about trans people's healthcare and trans people's safety than I do about handholding people who want to Dunning-Kruger their way through my field. So there's a reason why I take a more scientific approach with certain people who are addressing a scientific side of the topic.
Yeah.
In that case, I've got a question for you. Sure. No, keep going.
Go for it.
No. If you have a question directly for Ben, go ahead.
I mean, is being transgender a disorder?
No.
I mean, I'll be spicy and say I fully disagree with you. Why am I injecting hormones into myself that I have to get through a prescription if it's not? It causes
Dakota,
disorders.
do you think that it's a disorder to get a vaccine that you have to get a prescription for? Not all healthcare is for disorders. Do you think having a baby is a disorder? Do you think that
But being
colonoscopies
transgender is a problem in a vacuum? And a vaccine is only a problem on a social level.
But
like I could be on an island and still be transgender. If I'm on an island, I don't need a vaccine. You see what I'm saying?
So
that's not true. That's not true. A trans person would still benefit from gender affirming care even if they were outside of their society, because we're talking about the body that you live in.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, so
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like,
vaccines also don't exist. Would also be effective in that case too, because diseases also exist without other people around you, right? Like there are zoonoses, there are mosquito transmitted infections. Like you can still get malaria even if there aren't people around. Like, so this argument is just incoherent.
Well.
A disorder is fine. A disorder is defined by whether or not it causes disorder. And like, listen, I'm trans. And like,
there are Dakota, you don't have to have Dakota. There is healthcare that is not necessarily for disorders, and you can get gender affirming care and not have dysphoria. And you can still benefit from it without having dysphoria. So you don't have to have dysfunction in order to necessitate treatment. So this idea that that healthcare requires a disorder is a problematic way to look at healthcare, and it invalidates preventative medicine.
Okay, all right.
I wouldn't say healthcare requires disorder.
All right. I don't. The conversation is spiraling into semantics, and in reality, when we talk about people can have conditions, right? Diagnosable conditions that exist in human people can be diagnosed with depression, or they can be diagnosed with many different things, and it involves healthcare in a lot of different ways. Being trans itself is who we are. It's not a disorder, it's just who we are. That's, I think, the difference here. And unfortunately, because of our private medical care system in the United States and a lot of the different parts of the world, our existence as trans has been heavily medicalized and has to have diagnoses. You have to have psychologists, you have to have all of these different things that exist just so our healthcare can be covered by insurance, for example. So I will grant the fact that our system in the United States in particular requires a massive amount of diagnosis and clinical conditions that are diagnosed. I don't think there is any utility to say trans people are disordered. The reality is trans people are just human beings that need different healthcare needs, or sometimes different social conditions that allow them to live through their lives. That's where I stand, Dakota. I'm not trying to say that for my gender dysphoria I need healthcare. I have gender dysphoria. I've been clinically diagnosed with gender dysphoria. That is the reality of the world. But that doesn't mean I'm disordered. I just need healthcare in that particular way.
Well,
because disorder is stigmatizing.
I agree.
Do you understand about stigmatization?
Sure. Well, I was recently listening to Queer Fudge. Very technical, not technical. So, theory. I listened to theory. Queer. Never mind. It's queer. The neuroqueer. Neuroqueer. And it was breaking down the different models and how devastatingly destructive the pathology model is. And I fully agree, but we're in that model. And it seems unfair to not be engaging people when they're engaging at that model, or at the very least, like say, hey, you're engaging in something called the pathology model, and you don't even know it because it's just the paradigm we're in. We're not. And so like this conversation will never work until that's at least, and like while that's at the very least goes like unacknowledged. I mean, like there's so much illogical stuff that people don't even know they're adhering to because this mindset is so ingrained.
So,
Like for instance,
co-
you can be
I just wanted to pause it really quick. You believe there's this difference between sex and gender, right?
I believe it's semantics, but they're
But do you
important
believe that?
semantics.
Okay, right. But do you
I
believe
mean,
that there's a difference between gender and sex, correct?
I believe that this is really tough because I'm going through it at the moment, right? I believe there shouldn't
I
be.
get it. I
And
understand.
right,
But
because
you're going
like
through it. You're early in your transition, correct?
I'm 6 months on HRT. Like for
Okay.
the first
Yeah.
time in my life, I can go to sleep, and it's
Yes.
incredible. And
And I'm
I'm so
happy for you.
mad because like I knew when I was 5,
I knew when I was 8 and I
like
transitioned at 34. I'm right there with you, right?
puberty hits you like a train. It hits you like a train because your gender and your sex, at least in many of our cases, is incongruent,
So
and
yes.
it is
So Dakota, this is why I'm asking you this thing, right? Because
yeah.
when you're talking to people like Cody, right? Cody doesn't believe that there's a difference between sex and gender, right? That and because Cody didn't have the ability to humanize it. The difference between you and I having this conversation as someone who's going through transition now, early in your transition, you humanized it immediately when you talked about your transition and HRT and how you feel and how you can sleep at night. That is a different point of view that is much more persuasive to somebody like Quody than trying to use the argumentation grounds that they're trying to create. That's usually how I approach the conversations in a lot of ways. That's why I talked about at the beginning of that call with Cody. Or it wasn't that call, but it was the call before with the guy who was out of control. The idea like I was born and raised in Texas, I was raised conservative, I didn't come out until I was 34 years old, and I truly am happy for the first time in my life because you identify with that experience, Dakota. That is going to be way more persuasive than trying to argue with somebody to agree with them that we're disordered, because there's no reason to give them ground on your lived experience of how happy you are. And because that is always going to be much more persuasive. That's why I ask you the question about the difference between sex and gender. And you're still going through it, right? You're still understanding the difference between sex and gender and your own self and your own logic. Like for me, when I was first coming out and I was coming out as a trans woman and in early in my transition, I thought there was a difference between somebody who medicalizes as a trans person and somebody who didn't medicalize as a trans person. And I thought that there were different things. I had to grow up and I had to learn and evolve to understand that the lived experience of the trans community is one on its own self-shared experience. And we all learn as we get that cultural competency as we are going into this fight. And so that's why I think that we get a little rigid, right? When we're trying to say, okay, like disorder or they're right here, or we're going to grant this argument here, because they will never do it for us. And we have been,
Sure.
and me and Ben have been doing this for years now.
Listen, you guys are in
Years.
the trenches,
Yeah, and we
and I get
know
it, and
when
I feel
somebody's in
bad
good
coming
faith.
in.
No, we know when
I feel
somebody's
bad
in
coming in
good
telling you how to
faith.
do your.
No, it's fine, Dakota. I'm not trying to moralize it and saying you're bad for doing this. I actually appreciate this conversation because it allows people to see where we're coming from. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people in chat that feel the same way you do, Dakota. Of like, wow, I would have approached that argument differently. I wouldn't have went that direction, and that's fair and that's fine. That's why we have so many different hosts, and we all have different flavors, and we all approach the conversation in different ways. Every argument that we heard today is an argument we've heard probably a dozen times on this show in a different way and by a different person. And we have evolved in the way that we talk. For example, the conversation that I just had with the person who was agender. That ability for me to go in and
Yeah,
pinpoint when somebody's agender came
I've
with
heard you do that a few
several.
times.
Exactly. That's happened because I have now learned that there is a person that calls that gets very upset about the idea of gender identity because they don't have one themselves. I had to learn that through going through this experience over and over and over. And then I'm very good at pinpointing when somebody is an agender person and has a gripe about the concept of gender and not the fact that I am a trans woman, versus that person like Cody who has issue with me being a trans woman, saying I'm a woman, who isn't coming into the conversation with good faith. You and I, as trans people, and Ben here, we are all approaching this conversation with good faith because we understand the experience of transness and we experience understanding of how we are pathologized, like you said, Dakota, because you're going through the path of the pathologization of our condition of being trans. And what you'll realize after years of going through this, it's like, wow, that really wasn't a big deal at all. Like all I needed was hormones. Or all I needed was this X, Y, and Z, and now I can live my life just as fine. I don't know why it was such a big deal in the first place.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point. Like, all I needed was hormones.
Yeah.
And it seems
exactly.
like if someone goes, well, sex and gender are the same thing, and if we just went, you're right. Now imagine how horrible you would feel if for you it wasn't.
Yeah.
And you can fix it with one stupid injection a week.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Dakota. And the thing is, people like Cody aren't going to go down that path with us because they don't even believe that we exist. Right? It's the idea that, oh, they're just men and they just have this thing wrong with them, and so therefore I can say the truth claim that they're men, even though everyone in their world chooses them to be women or non-binary or man. Right? It's the reality of our lived experience is very hard to deal with when somebody denies that you exist at all. And so
I mean,
when
I
you're
would
having
posit it's impossible to empathize with.
yeah, exactly. So that's why we go down that route with Cody of like this is how we started getting pandactic with them, especially with the logic and then Occam's razor and all that type of stuff, because there was already a point where he had given up on the idea and concept that sex and gender were different, that he then wanted to play logical games with us to try to say that he was telling truth. And that's why the conversation spiraled, because me and Ben knew it was going to go there in the first place. And we met him in good faith in the beginning of that call. We really did. Ben's a little bit spicier than I am, but at the end of the day, I do try to give people as much benefit of the doubt as possible. And then there's a point when they start repeating themselves and they keep saying the same thing, the things that we already said many, many times. And then the conversation just gets stale. It gets frustrating. And then we have to do what we do as a show to move on to the next caller.
It seems like many, if not almost all of your callers forget that they're calling into a show that by its very definition has to be pedantic.
Mm-hmm.
You are calling in to talk about the 1%, the edge case. Anytime someone goes, well, that's an edge case, you know, it's like, well, what the frick did you think you called into? This is a show about edge cases. You have to be willing to talk about the edge cases. And I feel like reminding callers that yes, we are here to be pedantic because this is a place where the details matter. And I don't know, like if we can, I just feel like, or at the same time, I know hand holding, kid gloves sucks, but like, what if at the end of the day, that's what it takes? Because like, there is a lot of logical inconsistency that people don't like their logic thrown in their face, but like sometimes it can help them think. Like, here's the biggest thing, right? Wait until they're 18 to make their own decisions. Great. If that's your position, then you must be for trans women in sports. And they would go, well, no. And so, well, yeah, but like, if you're making them wait for the hormones, that's not their choice. So then like, you're accepting that they'll have masculine bodies. So then you would, of course, support that they can then go be part of the teams. Well, no. Well, I'm against trans women in sports. Great. So that means you support minors taking HRT because that's how you prevent.
I think it's I think it's okay. Like there's certain times where you do need to put on the kid gloves, but like I think we need to be careful about like tone policing each other's arguments, and the way that we handle it is like Josie and I were saying, like we handle these conversations a lot, and some perspectives that seem benign at the beginning harbor some very, very problematic biases, and a lot of them lead to, again, the idea that trans kids shouldn't get health care. And so those are things where I need to push back, especially as my career as a physician, as my role as an advocate. I have to step in and support the rights for people to get necessary health care. So again, like I think there's a time and a place for different argumentation styles. But I don't think we can handhold every person and have that be the right course of conversation.
And Dakota, you also have said this many times about or not many times, but you said it at the beginning of the call where you've watched us do this a lot, right? And you'll see how all the hosts, and I've said this before, all the hosts approach these differently, because at the end of the day, like, yes, it's always a great feeling when we're able to convert a transphobe or like tell somebody that, hey, you saw this differently. I mean, we've had people cry at the end of calls, right? Because they saw something so horrifically wrong that then they immediately break themselves and they're like, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I was doing this. And you know, that's happened. And you know, we don't expect that to happen, because that's most of the time, it's very rare do we ever see somebody change their point of view. We are also talking to the audience as well when we're having these conversations. We understand that there is just no way we're going to be able to tell somebody that believes that kids can't receive healthcare that they are automatically going to say kids can receive healthcare. We have the argumentation to let the audience that knows that they see this argument all the time of how they can approach it in different ways. Some people want to go spicy. Some people want to take my approach. Some people want to take Lux's approach. Some people want to take Riverboat Jack's approach, or Arden's approach, or Katie's approach from way back when. We all have different approaches, and we're just trying to educate across the internet about this is the type of argumentation you may confront, and these are the different ways that you can address them. And it also is an empowering conversation, because guess what? We don't want a lot of trans people to deal with these conversations. We deal with this, and believe me, like, it's exhausting to be on this show to deal with people like the first caller we had today. Like, it's exhausting to have somebody who just doesn't think you should exist and has a complete talking point circle that they completely go after, or over and over and over. But we do it so others don't have to. Or if they do confront those arguments, they know they can just laugh and walk away because they're not even worth their time. And if that's the case for some of our viewers, then I'm so happy that we're able to spare them, because it's better to be able to sit behind a screen and have people laugh at these idiot conversations rather than these arguments being spewed at you personally in public. So there's a lot of reasons why we do this show, and there's a lot of reasons why the line has become so popular on YouTube and how we're about to reach 200,000 subscribers, because people see this as a very cathartic experience. And I do appreciate you calling in as somebody saying, I wish you handled it differently, because it allows you to kind of like pick apart the machinery of why we do this show and how we approach every conversation. Because there are sometimes somebody will say the same argument in 3 different calls in a row, but we will approach every argument differently, just because we don't want to just say the same thing over and over. But it also allows us as argumentation, people, to be able to approach conversations differently to see what works better. And that's how I've become so good at spotting agender people. People will say I crack those agender eggs like it's a freaking omelet. And, but that's what I do, because I got good at spotting it because of this work on the show that I've been able to do.
We're running out of time here.
It's all very,
yeah.
I appreciate it. I think you're right. I think I was tone policing, and I should have been asking more questions. I'm just listening to this, imagining myself having to tell my father, and if that conversation doesn't go well, my kids are going to struggle to have a relationship with their grandparent. And so I keep watching this, I keep hoping for more successes than I'm hearing. And so it's tough.
It's hard. It's tough. It's tough. Well,
go
Dakota,
forth
good luck.
Yeah, go forth and develop your own way of handling these discussions. We need more people, more voices, more diversity in how we approach these. So I'm glad you have your unique way of handling it, and I hope everything goes well.
I'm glad you're happy, Dakota.
Hey.
It warms my heart to know you can take a
Yeah.
good night rest. I know that feeling. I
Yeah.
know that feeling for 34 years.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. So I'm happy that you're free.
Pretty great.
Great.
Well, hey guys, thanks. Keep it
Thank
up,
you.
and thanks for taking my call.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
And I'm so sorry for
All
the
right.
callers that we had to drop. Yeah, I know you were waiting for so long, but as we were just talking about, the show dictates. Sometimes the show dictates that we have to take the more confrontational calls for the sake of the value of the education that we bring in those calls. But we do try to take advice calls. We usually try to take a couple. We just didn't expect that last call to take so long. So please call back next week. We will try to make sure we prioritize you. Tell the screener that you called last week, and we'll try to make sure we get you in next time. Again, we are so sorry. We try to take every call, and it's not like us to not take them all. So thank you for your patience and your love to want to give to the show.
Yes, and we're going to get into the super chat portion of the show. So you can still submit your super chats, $5 or more, and you can get your votes, hashtag Team Josie or hashtag Team Regular White Guy. And you can vote for your favorite or least favorite host to defend what were the silly positions are mandatory drag story time. Every politician must wear rainbow, or churches must observe pride. So far in the lead is churches must observe pride, but you got time to vote. So get your votes in, and we're going to get into reading your super chats.
Yeah, absolutely. And since Ben wants to make it personal, saying the host you dislike the most, you know what to do, Team Josie. teach Dr. Ben for being an asshole, But he already knows he's an asshole, so it's all good.
I'm just a regular white guy,
regular
as
white guy.
trademarked by Josie earlier on in the show.
Yeah, RWG, let's go.
Yes, $5 from William Matz, 1991. Happy Pride Month. I rolled to see who got my vote. Hashtag Team Josie. Hashtag I also love Dr. Ben. It seems like you had two votes there.
No, it didn't say
but
team. You know the rules. $10. Don't even try
It
to
doesn't
already
have to say
escape it.
team. It doesn't have to say team.
Oh,
It just has
does
to have
have to say
hashtag name.
team. Oh,
No,
you're
it doesn't.
wrong. Yes. Oh,
No,
now
it doesn't.
we're talking about goalposts moving.
I feel
All
like he
right.
was very clearly saying, but not Ben, though.
No, that was true. But for Josie, like, it does not have to say team. It can say hashtag name as long as the hashtag is there. That is the rule.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure it was not a point for you.
It was not meant to be for me, but I was going to try to milk it anyway.
I know, because it's your fear. It's a fear. It's fine. $10 from Seekil 233. I just wanted to drop by to say this show is part of what helped me realize to fully accept I'm a woman always. Anyways, I am going to watch this later. Bye. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. That fills me with joy because I watched so many YouTubers that were trans women that inspired me and helped me become who I am. So for me to push that forward and is really great. Thank you.
All right, $5 from Joshua Everett. It's always hard for me to make a voting choice every week because I love all of the TACIS hosts equally. I want to hear Josie defend, so hashtag Team Dr. Ben. See, it's fine to vote for me just to hear Josie talk more. That's also an option.
Oh, now it's not even the least liked host. Okay, I see these goalposts. Now I know all moving goalposts is just a self-confession.
Is the goalpost in the room with us right now, Josie?
It's definitely for you. $20 from YouTuber Grudge. So we're not heroes. We're still survivors, the dreamers, the fighters. No lying, I'm tired. But dive in the fire and I'll be right here by your side. Hashtag happy pride. Hashtag always will be here. Hashtag I stand with you. Aw, thank you. And thank you for your generous contribution.
$5 from Katie Iron Fist. Ew, Rob is misinformed and refuses to listen, no matter who it hurts or who he has to victim blame. Yeah, that was a pretty gross call.
Yeah, that was bad. It's like arguing with a effing wall. 5 pounds from Sean Loves Mass. As a detransitioner, I despise how TERFs use people like me as a weapon against the trans community. I just happen not to be trans, but others are. Thank you, Sean, as always.
£5 from Sean Loves Maths. I didn't regret my transition. Sometimes I think I'm trans. Transition's too difficult. It took 10 years before I even got an offer of NHS help. Yeah, like we were saying, everything is still so restrictive, and people have been on the waiting list in the UK for decades before they can even get an appointment.
Yeah. $5 from Legally Mod. The HHS report was written by the LLM, full of hallucinations and completely unscientific. Rob is the worst kind of person. Hashtag Team Josie. Yeah, it's true. It was AI. The HHS report was AI driven. It was terrible.
Wild.
Yeah.
$5 from Katie Iron Fist. I knew Rob eats toilet pucks as soon as he said social contagion. Hashtag Team Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the social contagion argument is like one of the worst.
Yeah. £5 from Sean Loves Mass. I moved around the UK a lot, and trans healthcare in the NHS is decentralized. And whenever I got close on a waiting list, I was elsewhere. Wow, that's awful.
That sucks. $20 from Narcissa 800. None of them are conversant on any subject. This subject just lets them hate more. Yeah,
That's right.
That's pretty true.
Thank you for your kind contribution.
Everybody keep forgetting to vote, apparently, today.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. 666 from Professor Rowan 4582. Any advice for an FTM on T with chronic baby face? If one more old person tells me you'll appreciate it when you're older, I swear to God. Hashtag RPS.
I don't have a lot of good advice on that. I guess if you can grow facial hair, that helps a lot of people, but otherwise it's just kind of
Look up how to
stuck
do
with it,
masculine
unfortunately.
contouring.
Yeah, that's an option too. Yeah, masculine contouring. I'm not very makeup savvy, so I'm not one to ask on that, but go to the internets.
Are you guys gonna rock, paper, scissors?
Oh,
Oh, we
God.
have to rock, paper, scissors. That's what that is.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh, we're
Ah.
scissoring.
Okay. Oh, God. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh,
You
scissors.
got me.
Or, I got
You
paper.
got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you win.
I needed the help anyway.
Yeah. $10. I think this is you. This is you, actually.
Okay, $10 from Legally Mod. What is the best response when someone says that trans women are not philosophically women? Because my stock response is go fuck yourself and eat a sack of dicks, Phil, bro, doesn't work. I really hate popular philosophy. Yeah, I mean, if anyone said the phrase philosophically women, I'd probably just walk away from the conversation because that's not worth my time. Like,
I just say okay and walk away. $10 from Mara Featherbender. I forgot. It's Thursday. Hi, all my TACIS loves. So glad to get my Ben and Josie fix. Meanwhile, a local cafe had a baguette in a cage. The menu said bread in captivity. Hashtag Team Josie. That's good.
This is a funny one.
That was good.
$5 from Rusty Shackelford. Hell yes, my two favorite TACIS hosts. Absolutely magnificent specimens. Happy Pride. Y'all means all. Good luck with your campaign, Ms. Josie. Yeah, you wish her luck on the campaign and then you don't vote for her. So that's something.
That better be a donation into my campaign right there. All right. $5 from Katie Iron Fist. Cody, both masculine cis women and feminine cis men get harassed in the bathroom because people just know. That's right. Just knows.
Yeah.
See those Adam's apples from under everybody's chins.
£5 from Babs Barrett. Cody, I transitioned in 1984, so I've been a woman twice as long as you've been passing as a man. Hashtag Team Josie.
That's good.
Yikes.
That's a good one, Babs.
That's hilarious.
A good one. £5 from Mystic Mind Analysis. Evolutionary psychology equals why we not pareidolia. Not evolutionary psychology equals biologically need to wear a dress. Yeah. I didn't realize it was in my brain that I'm not wearing a dress. So am I going against my biological nature?
Yeah, your biological nature to wear a dress.
Yeah.
$20 from Narcissa. Cody, it's okay if you want to try a dress. All the Cody egg lore in the side chat.
Crack them like omelets. Joshua Everett, 9887. Kopi thinks, or I guess it's Cody, but Kopi, I like that, thinks
Yeah.
his ideas are more important than actual people. Hashtag Dr. Ben for putting up with that nonsense.
The
I had to put up with
scores.
it too. But it's like I deserve putting up with that nonsense. You get to be
They
faked
feel
for it.
bad for me. They feel bad for me because I'm just a regular white man.
Just a regular white dude.
5 pounds from Babs Barrett. Here in the UK, seeing Muslim men wearing jubba, an ankle-length dress, is very common. Yeah. So masculinity is different across different cultures. So if
No, it's
if I'm Scottish,
biological.
no, if my ancestry is Scottish and I don't feel this pull to wear a kilt, am I even a man?
No,
I
your
don't know.
brain is just built wrong. You're supposed to,
Yeah.
that's just how it is. That's how Cody feels about the Scottish people. $10 from our featherbender. Eleanor, thank you for bringing up a big stupid grin to my face of our faces, so many of our faces. Love seeing Josie light up when you push back on currency. I can feel the enthusiasm. Hashtag team debate champ. Hashtag team Josie. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That gave me a throwback to my econ classes I took this past semester to get my GI Bill benefits. $5 from Beaker Squeakers. Just hung my flag for my first Pride since y'all helped me crack my egg. Thanks for that, by the way. Hashtag Team Dr. Saucy McRib. I forgot that was a thing that happened. I forgot that I'm the McRib.
Yeah, again, not beating just the regular dude, white dude in allegations.
Yeah.
$20 from Joshua Everett, 9887. Happy Pride for those who need to hear. If you give into hate over differences or overly intellectualize the lived experience of others, you miss the actual beautiful person underneath. Hashtag all of us. Hashtag Team Dr. Ben too. See, you're not even
Thank you for
included
the
in all
vote.
of us.
I'm not in all of us. I'm a separate entity.
Yeah,
From
yes,
all
you
of
are.
us.
Yeah.
That's the way it feels sometimes, though, with being a trans guy in the atheist YouTube space. Because I know there are trans guys in the trans activist space, but there aren't many in the atheist space. So it's like the trans women and me.
Yeah.
5 Canadian from Hubris Inc. No Eye sounds like a colorblind person who thinks color vision people are lying. Hashtag Team Ben. Sometimes,
we didn't
it
bring up
feels.
that one.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah. $8 from Darren McCluffy. I love how Forrest put it. I'm playing this video game. I should be able to customize my character. Hashtag Team Josie. That's right. I like that.
That's pretty great. $10 from YouTuber Grudge. Hashtag Team Ben because I have to rep for the mask. See, there we go. We got the masks in the side chat repping.
Yeah.
It's just a guilt thing to get you all to vote for me.
$10 from Melifelius Fluius. Thank you everyone involved for bringing us TACIS. Hashtag Team Ben for this one though.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
They all feel bad for me.
Yeah.
$5 from Isaac's 852.
It's that empty room. People want you to get some furnishings.
Yeah, they're like, go get less echoey. Go get go get a rug or something.
Such a boy aesthetic, like just having nothing, no wall, nothing on your wall.
I just moved here and I have to get my stuff from storage shipped back to me.
Sure. I'm sure you just got a mattress laying in your room.
I do right now. Because I had to. I did a DIY move because I couldn't afford the several $1,000s to move from New Mexico to Pennsylvania. So I'm in the process of getting new stuff. But but $5 from Isaac's. It's fair. That's fair. Happy Pride to all. Any quick advice on fitting in with the LGBTQIA plus community as a trans ace person? Much love. Hashtag Team Dr. Penn. Hashtag honorary Team Lux. I mean, the quick advice to fitting in is to be yourself. There are so many trans ace people. Like so many
Yeah.
out there.
And does that mean I lose?
Yeah,
All
it
right,
looks like
fine.
it. Getting ready
It's
to
okay.
charge up
I'll
the
lose
timer.
Good job,
here, but
team.
I'll win when it counts, when I win this election. All right, anyways. What am I defending?
Churches must observe
The
pride. 3, 2, 1,
Oh.
go.
All right. Well, it's obvious churches should observe pride because the churches have a lot to atone for. I've seen many churches that do open their doors to pride, and guess what happens? Their congregations actually increase. So we just got to make sure that they are forced to observe pride because a lot of churches don't want separation of church and state. So it's almost like they're asking for it. So when a church says, "Hey, I don't want a separation of church and state," we just say, well, if you don't want that separation, then the government can just say, you know what, church, you're gonna observe pride. Flags all on the steeples, flags and queer people, drag queens for Sunday school, drag queens for communion, whatever your flavor, you're gonna get that good pride experience. Also, you know what? In fact, while we're at it, let's just say only queer people can use the churches during that pride observation as well. Because, why not? We need to make churches a safe space again. And this is another way we can do that by making churches observe pride and only make it available for queer people who celebrate pride. And then after all of that is done, we can finally say we have won against the bigotry of there is no hate like Christian love. All right, we can finally put it to bed and make queer people safe again. So when you go into church, and I know some of you do, bring a pride flag and say, I'm just doing my constitutional right to make you observe me on pride. So, and that's the way we should do it. And that's why I'm the debate queen.
I think that seals the deal. That pretty much does it.
That
All
seals it.
righty.
All right, we have to rush over to calling it now, so don't miss that. This stream is going to route you over there automatically, so just hang tight in the side chat. And if you want to see your name on this lovely list next to us, you can join the Patreon and become one of those lovely patrons on the side there. I will see you all next time.
Awesome. You got to do it.
Stick around for calling it now. I'll be live with
Call it
Jovan.
now. It's happening. It's happening right now.